The fabric of reality shouldn't scream, but it did. Over Manhattan's skyline, space itself tore open like wounded flesh, not the clean, geometric portals of sorcerers or the shimmering gateways of bifrost travel, but a ragged wound bleeding golden light. That made the afternoon sun look dim by comparison. Pedestrians stopped mid-stride. Car alarms wailed in harmony with the dimensional shriek. And from that impossible rupture, a figure emerged. He landed on the Chrysler Building's spire with impossible grace, one hand steadying himself against Art Deco steel as reality sealed behind him. For a moment, he simply stood there, orange GI pristine, white sash catching the wind, fusion vest gleaming with an otherworldly sheen. His eyes, sharp and calculating, swept across the city below, with the intensity of a warrior and the precision of a tactician. Gogeta, born from the Metamoran fusion of Goku and Vegeta, had arrived in a universe he didn't recognize. The energy signatures were all wrong. No key signatures he could identify. No familiar power levels registering on his senses. Yet the city hummed with something else. A different kind of power woven into its very foundation. Technology beyond anything Capsule Corp had produced. Energies that tasted like magic but felt like science. Fascinating, he murmured, his voice carrying both Goku's wonder and Vegeta's analytical edge. A universe where even the baseline humans bend reality through their inventions. 3 blocks away, in Avengers Tower, alarms screamed to life. Friday, what am I looking at? Tony Stark's voice cut through the command center as holographic. Displays erupted with data. The AI's response came instantly, clinical and concerned. Unknown entity, boss. Energy readings are unprecedented. No match in any database, terrestrial, Asgardian, or cosmic. Power output registers beyond celestial class. He materialized through a dimensional breach that shouldn't have been possible given our current multiversal stability protocols. Captain America's shield was already in hand as he strode to the window, his tactical mind assessing threat vectors. How beyond celestial class are we talking? Put it this way, Tony said, his arc reactor humming as the Iron Man armor began assembling around him. If Thor's a 10 on our scale, this guy just broke the measuring stick. Thor himself materialized in a crackle of bifrost energy. Stormbreaker gripped tight, eyes glowing with power as he gazed toward the Chrysler Building. I sense it, Stark. A warrior's spirit unlike any I have encountered in my 1500 years. He is no villain, yet his power. The God of Thunder's jaw set. It reminds me of when my father first described the Celestials to me as a child. Awe and terror in equal measure. Great, Tony muttered. Just what we needed. Another God-tier problem 3 years after Thanos. On the spire, Gogeta's enhanced senses detected the approaching heroes before their instruments locked onto him. 3 distinct power signatures. One technological and brilliant. One mortal, yet carrying the weight of absolute conviction. One divine and ancient. The Avengers. He'd sensed their name in the ambient energy of the city, whispered in a million conversations, carried on electromagnetic waves. He could have simply teleported away using instant transmission. But Goku's instinct for meeting strong opponents and Vegeta's pride in demonstrating superiority stayed his hand. Besides, tactical assessment required intelligence gathering. If he was trapped in this universe, and the way reality had sealed suggested exactly that, he needed allies, information, and time to understand the rules. The fusion warrior leaped from the spire, dropping 50 stories before arresting his momentum in midair, hovering 200 feet above Fifth Avenue. Pedestrians below scrambled for cover, phones raised, capturing everything. Gogeta paid them no mind, his attention fixed on the 3 armored figures approaching from the north. Iron Man arrived first, repulsors charged and aimed, golden red armor gleaming. Captain America swung in on a grapple line, landing on a nearby rooftop with shield raised. Thor descended from above, lightning crackling around Stormbreaker, positioning himself to cut off any aerial escape route. Classic pincer formation. Gogeta noted it with approval. These warriors understood tactics. Attention, unknown entity. Iron Man's voice boomed through external speakers, though Gogeta could hear the slight tension underneath the bravado. You've just punched a hole through dimensional barriers that took the Sorcerer Supreme, and 3. Wakand and Science teams 6 months to stabilize after the Thanos incident. Want to explain why you're turning our reality into Swiss cheese? Gogeta's expression remained calm, though something flickered in his eyes. Was that amusement? I didn't choose to come here, Armored One. The dimensional breach was involuntary. A miscalculation during a training exercise that went catastrophically wrong. He paused, then added with complete honesty, though I'll admit, the physics of your universe are fascinating. The energy matrices are completely different from what I'm accustomed to. Training exercise? Captain America's voice carried that particular blend of skepticism and readiness that had kept him alive through a century of impossible situations. What kind of training creates a hole in space-time? The kind involving fusion dance synchronization, near unstable multiversal junction points, Gogeta replied, as if this should be obvious. He noted their confusion and sighed. I forget you don't have Metamoran fusion techniques here. I am Gogeta, the fusion of 2 Scion warriors from a universe where combat power is measured in increments. That would make your Celestials pause. Thor's eyes narrowed. You speak of fusion magic? I know of no sorcery that can merge 2 souls into one vessel. Not magic. Technique, dance, timing, and matching power levels perfectly, Gogeta demonstrated, his fingers moving through the initial poses of the fusion dance before stopping. Though that's academic now, what matters is that I'm here. I have no way home currently, and I have approximately. He glanced at an internal clock only he could. Since 27 minutes before this. Fusion expires and I split back into my component parts. The 3 Avengers exchanged glances. This was not how God-tier threats usually introduced themselves. Friday, Tony subvocalized. Analyze his energy signature. Is he bluffing about the power levels? Negative, boss. If anything, he's understating them. Preliminary scans suggest his energy output, if weaponized, could destabilize planetary tectonic plates. Possibly worse. Tony's reactor flickered. That was Thanos-level threat assessment. But the alien fusion warrior wasn't attacking, wasn't threatening, wasn't even postured aggressively. He was just hovering there, waiting patiently, like someone who'd accidentally crashed a party and was trying to explain themselves to the hosts. You said your fusion expires. Captain America called out, his tactical mind already working through implications. What happens then? Then you'll meet Goku and Vegeta separately. Both formidable warriors, though. Gogeta's smirk carried Vegeta's pride. Neither quite as effective as myself. The fusion multiplies our power exponentially and combines our knowledge. Goku's combat instinct and Vegeta's tactical genius becomes something greater. And if we decide you're a threat? Thor's voice rumbled with thunder. If we determine that your presence endangers this realm? Gogeta's expression turned serious, his aura flickering around him like heat shimmer, golden, light tinged with something otherworldly. Then you would attempt to stop me, and we would fight. And many would die in the collateral damage before you realized the futility. But I don't think you want that. And neither do I. His gaze swept across all 3 heroes. I sense no malice in any of you. Only duty, caution, and the scars of recent trauma. Someone hurt you. Someone with power like mine, perhaps. The silence stretched for 3 seconds. Thanos, Captain America finally said. A titan who collected 6 Infinity Stones and erased half of all life in the universe with a snap of his fingers. We stopped him, but it cost us everything. Gogeta's eyes widened slightly, the first crack in his composed demeanor. Half of all life. With a single gesture? He was silent for a moment, processing. In his universe, such devastation required sustained planetary destruction, not casual reality manipulation. These Infinity Stones, they bend fundamental laws. They are fundamental laws, Thor corrected. Space, time, reality, power, mind, and soul. Together, they grant omnipotence within this universe. Ah, Gogeta nodded slowly. That explains why your reality feels so different. You have cosmic shortcuts. In my universe, power is earned through training, transformation, and pushing beyond limits. Here you have cheat codes built into reality's operating system. Cheat codes? Tony couldn't help the slight laugh. Did the Cosmic Fusion Warrior just make a video game reference? I'm not just power. Gogeta replied with a knowing smile. One of my components spent years dead, training with gods and learning philosophy. The other spent his life as a prince, studying battle strategy and governance. I contain multitudes, Stark. Yes, I know your name. Your technological signature broadcasts it quite loudly. Tony's helmet retracted, revealing his face. If the entity already knew who they were, the intimidation factor of anonymity was pointless. Okay, Gogeta, here's the situation. We've spent 3 years rebuilding after an apocalypse. Our universe is still fragile. Dimensional breaches are monitored by the Sorcerer Supreme himself. The fact that you punched through without triggering his defenses means you're either absurdly powerful or fundamentally incompatible with our reality's rules. Probably both, Gogeta admitted. But I'm not your enemy. If anything, I may be your warning. Warning? Captain America's stance shifted slightly, shield lowering a fraction. About what? About the fragility you just mentioned. Gogeta's expression turned grave. When I emerged from that breach, I felt it. Your reality is wounded, scarred. Someone rewrote fundamental aspects of it recently, didn't they? Used those stones to alter what should be immutable. The three Avengers said nothing, but their body language confirmed everything. I thought so. Gogeta sighed. In my universe, when someone tries to manipulate reality on that scale, it creates ripples, weak points, places where other universes can bleed through. The fact that I'm here, despite having no intentional method of crossing over, suggests your reality's barriers are thinner than they should be. You're saying there could be more breaches? Tony's mind was already racing through implications. More entities like you falling through. Or worse things, Gogeta said quietly. I'm a warrior. I understand control and responsibility. But there are entities in the infinite multiverse that don't. Things that would see you're wounded. Reality as an opportunity, not an accident to apologize for. Thor gripped Stormbreaker tighter. Then we must seal the breaches. Restore the barriers. Maybe, Gogeta said. Or maybe you need to understand why they weakened in the first place. That requires investigation. And I suspect your Sorcerer Supreme is already looking into it. But it also requires. He paused, choosing his words carefully, someone who understands multiversal mechanics from the outside. Someone not bound by this reality's rules. You, Captain America said. It wasn't a question. Me, Gogeta confirmed. At least for the next. He checked again, 23 minutes. After that, Goku and Vegeta. They'll be just as powerful separately, but you'll get two perspectives instead of one fused tactical genius. Tony's suit ran calculations, cross-referencing power signatures with historical data. Friday says you could level New York if you wanted to. Why aren't you? Because I'm smart enough to know that raw power without wisdom is just destruction. Gogeta replied, his voice carrying absolute conviction. Vegeta learned that lesson the hard way. Goku learned it from watching friends die because he was too naive. I carry both sets of memories, both lessons. Power is a tool, not an identity. Spoken like someone who actually deserves that power, a new voice interjected. Doctor Strange materialized in a swirl of golden sparks. The eye of Agamotto glowing faintly at his chest. Crimson cloak of levitation billowing despite the still air. His expression was cautious but curious as he studied. Gogeta with eyes that saw beyond the physical. Sorcerer Supreme. Gogeta greeted with a respectful nod. I felt your wards when I arrived. Impressive work, though you should. Reinforce the seventh dimensional anchor. It's showing stress fractures. Strange's eyebrows rose. You can perceive multidimensional ward structures. He sense translates across dimensional barriers more easily than you'd think. Energy is energy, even if you call it magic. The two locked eyes, warrior and sorcerer, each recognizing in the other a kindred understanding of power's true cost. We need to talk, Strange said. All of us. But not here. He gestured, golden circles of light already forming. The Sanctum Sanctorum. Neutral ground, heavily warded and private. We have 19 minutes before your fusion expires. And I suspect we all want answers before you split into two unknown quantities. Gogeta glanced at the three Avengers, reading their body language. Captain America's shield had lowered completely. Thor's lightning had subsided. Tony's repulsors were no longer aimed directly at him. Agreed, Gogeta said. Though I should warn you, Goku is going to be very excited about meeting all of you. He loves fighting strong opponents. Vegeta will be more reserved, but he'll be analyzing everyone for tactical assessment. Try not to take it personally. Great, Tony muttered. The Cosmic Fusion Warrior has multiple personality disorder. Not disorder, Gogeta corrected with a slight smile. Perfect synthesis. But your concern is noted. As Doctor Strange's portal opened, revealing the interior of the Sanctum Sanctorum, Gogeta took one last look at the New York skyline. This universe was different, younger, more volatile, still healing from its own apocalypse. But it was also full of potential. Heroes who had faced omnipotent threats and survived. Warriors who understood sacrifice. He might not have chosen to be here, but perhaps there was a reason the multiverse had dropped a Scion Fusion Warrior into Marvel's reality. At this exact moment, perhaps this universe needed someone who understood what came after you defeated your universe's greatest threat. Perhaps they needed someone who knew that the real battles began after the victory. Gogeta stepped through the portal, and reality rippled in his wake. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. The strongest warriors understand that true power comes with wisdom. The Sanctum Sanctorum's interior defied conventional physics in ways that impressed even Gogeta. Impossible geometries folded through space. Staircases led to doorways that opened onto different dimensions, and the very walls hummed with protective enchantments layered so densely they created harmonic resonances. The Fusion Warriors' key sense painted a picture of reality bent into defensive configurations that would make even the Kais nod in approval. Your architecture is weaponized, Gogeta observed, running a hand along a banister that existed in 3 dimensions simultaneously. Every angle serves dual purpose, aesthetic and strategic. Someone attacked you here before. Strange's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. Thanos' forces breached these walls during the initial invasion. They learned why that was a mistake. But yes, the Sanctum has been reinforced since then. You're perceptive. I'm fused with a prince who spent his entire life studying warfare and a martial artist who can read an opponent's intent from their breathing pattern. Gogeta settled into a lotus position on the floor without being invited to sit. Completely comfortable. Perception is mandatory when you carry the memories of 2 lifetimes, compressed into 30-minute intervals. The Avengers arranged themselves around the room's central chamber, Tony leaning against a bookshelf that definitely contained more than just books, Steve standing at parade rest near the window, Thor claiming a space where he could watch both Gogeta and the entrance. Strange took his position at the room's focal point, the eye of Agamotto pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Wong materialized from a side passage, carrying tea on a tray that floated beside him. Dr. Strange, our guest. He set cups before each person with practiced precision, though his eyes never left Gogeta. Chamomile with Camartage honey. It helps with dimensional displacement nausea. Thoughtful. Gogeta accepted the cup, inhaled once, and smiled. Though unnecessary, Scion physiology adapts to new environments within minutes. Still, the gesture is appreciated. He sipped, and something flickered across his face. This honey, it's not from your Earth. New Asgard's imports, Wong confirmed, impressed despite himself. You identified that from taste alone? Energy signatures permeate everything, even food. This carries traces of Bifrost radiation. Gogeta took another sip. Delicious, by the way. Goku will be disappointed he missed this. He loves trying new foods. Speaking of which, Tony activated a holographic timer projected from his arc reactor. You've got 17 minutes before we meet your component parts. So let's skip the pleasantries and get to the questions that matter. Starting with, what exactly is a Scion? And why should we believe you're not about to go full Thanos on us? Gogeta set down his cup, and his expression shifted, still calm, but with an intensity that made the temperature in the room seem to drop. Scions are a warrior race from planet Vegeta. Born fighters, evolved for combat, capable of transforming into increasingly powerful forms by pushing past our limits. We were nearly exterminated by a tyrant named Frisia, who feared what we might become. He paused, letting that sink in. The 2 individuals I'm composed of are the last full-blooded scions in our universe. Both have died multiple times protecting Earth. Both have faced gods and won. Gods. Thor repeated, interest peaked. Which gods? Destroyers. Beings responsible for maintaining universal balance by erasing planets. Stars. Entire galaxies when they grow stagnant. Then angels who attend them. Then the Omni-Kings, who rule over all 12 universes in our multiverse. Gogeta's tone was matter-of-fact, as if discussing weather patterns. Goku achieved Ultra Instinct, a state where the body moves without conscious thought, perfectly efficient in combat. Vegeta mastered Ultra Ego, a form where damage taken converts directly into power. What happens when those two philosophies merge? The silence lasted exactly 4 seconds. You're telling us, Steve said slowly, his tactical mind processing implications, that you fought beings who can casually destroy galaxies? And you're here by accident. Correct. Though accident might be generous. More like catastrophic miscalculation during fusion. Practice near a dimensional nexus point that Whis specifically warned us about, but Vegeta insisted would be fine, because he's too proud to admit he needed the training. Gogeta's smirk carried equal parts exasperation and fondness. The component personalities bleed through sometimes. Dr. Strange had been silent, but now he stepped forward, hands weaving through complex patterns. Golden mandalas of light spiraled around Gogeta, scanning, probing, analyzing without touching. The fusion warrior didn't resist, simply sat calmly as mystical energy washed over him. Fascinating, Strange murmured. Your energy signature. It's not native to any dimension I've studied. The structure is fundamentally different from cosmic entities, infinity stones, or even the quantum realm. You're telling the truth about being from another universe entirely. And your power. He made a gesture, and the mandalas collapsed into a single point of light. The readings are inconclusive because they exceed my instrument's capacity to measure. That's happened exactly twice before, with the Infinity Gauntlet and with Dormammu in the Dark Dimension. Flattering comparison, though probably inaccurate. Gogeta's tone was polite but firm. I'm powerful, yes, but I'm not omnipotent. I can't snap my fingers and rewrite reality. What I can do is fight, better, faster, and smarter than almost anyone. But there are limits. The fusion has a time constraint. I need to eat substantially to maintain energy output. And while I can destroy planets if I wanted to, I have no interest in doing so. Why not? Wang's question was direct, almost challenging. You claim this level of power, but what stops you from using it for conquest? From becoming what Thanos was? Gogeta's expression turned serious, and for a moment, the weight of 2 lifetimes pressed against his features. Because both of my components have watched friends die, because they weren't strong enough, have held children as they died despite all our power, have stood on battlefields where victory meant nothing, because everyone we loved was already gone. His voice carried the exhaustion of warriors who had seen too much. Goku fights to protect, not to dominate. Vegeta learned that his pride meant nothing if he had no one to be proud for. I am the synthesis of those lessons. Power without purpose is just destruction waiting to happen. Thor shifted forward, Stormbreaker's weight a comfort in his grip. You speak as one who has lost much. I know that weight. But loss can drive warriors to madness as easily as wisdom. True. Gogeta met Thor's eyes evenly. Your brother, perhaps? I sense old grief when you speak of loss and madness together. The god of thunder stiffened, then slowly nodded. Loki, my brother. He fell to ambition and pain, twisted by truths he could not accept. In the end, he found redemption, but the scars remain. In my universe, Vegeta was once a planet destroyer serving Frisia. He murdered countless innocents out of pride and cruelty. Then he came to Earth, was defeated by Goku, and slowly learned what it meant to fight for something beyond himself. Gogeta's voice carried both pride and sorrow. Redemption is possible, but it requires acknowledging the darkness. I carry Vegeta's guilt as surely as I carry Goku's compassion. That duality keeps me balanced. 14 minutes. Tony announced, though his tone had shifted from suspicious to considering. So you're powerful, you're honest, and you've got built-in moral guardrails from 2 perspectives. Great. That still doesn't solve the problem of why you're here and how we send you back. I've been analyzing that, Gogeta admitted. Your universe's energy structure is fundamentally different from mine. Where I come from, Ki is the life force that connects all living things. Here, you have different systems, mutant X genes, cosmic radiation alterations, mystical energies, technological enhancements. Your power sources are fragmented rather than unified. Strange nodded slowly. The multiverse operates on infinite variations. Some universes run on magic, some on science, some on concepts we don't have words for. You're saying yours operates on this key? Predominantly, though we have gods and magic too. But the foundational, energy that powers everything, from the smallest insect to the mightiest destroyer, is key. It's both simpler and more elegant than your system. Gogeta gestured around the room. Here, you've built elaborate frameworks to channel different types of power. In my universe, a child can learn to fly just by understanding how to manipulate their internal energy. Different philosophies. Could you teach it? Steve's question was practical, tactical. If we learn to use ki, could we defend against future threats more effectively? Possibly. Probably. But it would take years of training for most beings to reach even basic competency. Goku trained under Master Roshi 4 years before he could fire his first energy blast. Vegeta was born with high power levels, but still needed decades to achieve his current forms. Gogeta paused, considering. Though with your enhanced individuals, Thor's divine heritage, Tony's advanced technology, Steve's super soldier enhancements, the learning curve might be shorter. Your bodies are already optimized in ways that normal humans aren't. This is all very educational. Wong interjected, but it doesn't address the immediate crisis. Doctor Strange, the dimensional breach he created, did it seal naturally? Or is it still active? Strange's expression darkened. It's sealed, but not cleanly. There's residual distortion in the dimensional fabric, like scar tissue after a wound. And he hesitated, which was never a good sign from the Sorcerer Supreme. I detected something troubling when I examined the breach's signature. The damage pattern is consistent with forced entry, not accidental breakthrough. Gogeta's head snapped around, full attention on Strange. Forced? I created the breach, and it definitely wasn't intentional. I believe you. But the energy signature suggests the breach was pulled open from this side, not pushed through from yours. Something in our universe wanted that portal opened. Strange's hands wove through mystical patterns, projecting a three-dimensional map of dimensional barriers. A pulsing red scar marked where Gogeta had arrived. See these stress patterns? They radiate outward from a secondary epicenter. Someone or something was attempting to breach dimensional walls at the exact moment you were conducting your fusion practice near a nexus point. Your power and their attempt intersected, and the resulting cascade tore through weaker barriers. That's Tony's holographic displays exploded with data as Friday processed the implications. That's actually worse than a random accident. That means someone here wanted to create a dimensional breach and just happened to catch a cosmic fusion warrior in the process. Or Captain America's voice was grim. They knew exactly when and where to pull someone through. This could have been targeted. Who has that kind of power? Thor demanded. The Sorcerer's Supreme guard dimensional barriers. The Avengers monitor cosmic threats. SWRD tracks extraterrestrial activity. What enemy could operate beneath all our defenses? Gogeta was silent for a moment, his fused consciousness processing combat scenarios with Vegeta's tactical genius and Goku's battle-honed instinct. In my universe, when someone wants to manipulate dimensional boundaries for strategic purposes, it's usually one of three motives. They're seeking asylum from their home dimension, they're invading a weaker reality, or they're collecting something specific from multiple universes. Kong, Steve and Tony said simultaneously. Kong the Conqueror, Strange confirmed, his expression hardening. A time-traveling warlord from the 31st century. We've encountered variants of him before. He's obsessed with conquering timelines and dimensional variants, building an empire across the multiverse. And he'd absolutely be interested in someone like you, Tony added, pointing at Gogeta. A warrior from another universe with power that exceeds our normal cosmic scale? You're either a threat to be eliminated or a weapon to be acquired. Knowing Kong, probably both. Gogeta's aura flickered. golden light dancing across his form like captured lightning. So I was bait. Or a prize. Either way, someone decided to make me their problem, without asking first. His voice carried an edge now. Vegeta's pride and Goku's protective instinct merging into something cold. I don't appreciate being used. 11 minutes, Tony announced. Whatever we're planning, we need to do it before you split into two angry scions who don't have your tactical restraint. They have restraint, Gogeta corrected. Just different priorities. Goku will want to train and understand this universe's fighters. Vegeta will want to eliminate threats and establish superiority. Both will be furious about being manipulated. He stood in one fluid motion, the teacup floating gently back to Wong's tray through telekinetic precision. Which brings us to the practical question, what do you want from me? Because I can see the calculation in all your eyes. You're trying to determine if I'm an asset, a threat, or both. Captain America stepped forward, shield lowered but not discarded. You said you contain the memories of two warriors who've died, protecting Earth. That you've faced destroyers and gods. That you understand power's burden. His voice carried the weight of decades leading heroes through impossible situations. We've been where you are. We know what it's like to be so powerful that your mere presence changes the battlefield. Thor struggles with it. Tony builds armor to feel human. I took a serum that made me a symbol, as much as a soldier. He met Gogeta's eyes evenly. So here's my question, and I need you to answer honestly. If we asked you to help us, to use your power to protect this universe while we figure out how to send you home, would you do it? Or would you prioritize your own return above our people's safety? The silence stretched for 5 heartbeats. That's Gogeta's expression shifted through several emotions before settling on something like respect. That's the most direct and honest tactical recruitment pitch I've ever received. No manipulation, no appeals to ego. Just a straight question about priorities. He smiled, and it carried both Goku's warmth and Vegeta's sharp intelligence. Captain Rogers, you just earned something very few beings in my universe manage. You made Vegeta's component genuinely impressed with your leadership skills. Is that a yes? Steve pressed. It's an acknowledgement that you're asking the right question. Gogeta began pacing, his movement unconsciously graceful. Here's my situation. I'm trapped in your universe with no immediate way home. My fusion will expire in 9 minutes, splitting me into Goku and Vegeta. Both will be individually powerful, but less tactically optimal than my current form. If this Kong individual pulled me through intentionally, he'll either attempt to weaponize us or eliminate us as variables in his plans. Meanwhile, your universe is still healing from its own apocalypse and showing dimensional instability that could allow worse things through. That's an accurate summary, Strange confirmed. Then strategically, my priorities align with yours by necessity. I can't go home until dimensional barriers stabilize. I can't stabilize them without understanding your universe's rules. And I can't understand your rules without assistance from natives who know the landscape. Gogeta stopped pacing, turning to face all 5 heroes. So yes, Captain Rogers, if you need power to protect this universe while working toward my eventual return, you have it. Both from me in my current form and from Goku and Vegeta after this fusion expires. But understand, we're not soldiers to command. We're warriors offering alliance, not servitude. That's all I'm asking for. Steve extended his hand. Allies, partners, not subordinates. Gogeta clasped the offered hand, and both men felt the strength in each other's grip, neither trying to dominate. Both testing, both satisfied with what they found. 7 minutes. Tony interrupted. If we're doing this, we need a game plan before Fusion Boy becomes Fusion Boys. Dr. Strange, can you track Kang's dimensional manipulation signature? Already working on it. Strange's hands were weaving through complex patterns, golden energy spiraling into detection. Matrices. But it'll take time. Kang's technology operates on principles that blend science and temporal mechanics in ways that defy conventional mystical tracking. Then we need to prepare for his next move, Thor stated. If he sought to bring Gogeta here, he will not abandon his prize without contest. Agreed. Wong was already moving toward a shelf lined with ancient texts. I'll research multiversal summoning rituals. If Kong used magical components to facilitate the breach, there will be traces in the mystical record. Gogeta watched the Avengers mobilize with practiced efficiency, each moving to their strength without need for detailed orders. It reminded him of the tournament of power, warriors from different backgrounds, unified by common purpose, trusting each other's competence. Impressive. 5 minutes, Tony announced. Gogeta, when you split, will Goku and Vegeta remember this conversation? Every word. Fusion memories transfer completely to both components. They'll know everything I've experienced, agreed to, and assessed. The only difference will be personality. Goku will be more enthusiastic and trusting. Vegeta more suspicious and aggressive. But both will honor the alliance I've established. Good enough. Tony's helmet materialized around his head. Friday, prepare split-screen communication protocols. If we're about to have 2 cosmic warriors instead of 1, I want independent comm channels for each. Also, scan for dimensional anomalies in a 50-mile radius. If Kang's making another move, I want advance warning. Already configured. Boss, and I'm detecting something. You should see. The AI's voice carried an unusual urgency. There's a temporal distortion forming in Central Park. Small scale, but the energy signature matches historical records from Kong encounters. Dr. Strange's head snapped up, eyes glowing with mystical power as he perceived what technology confirmed. He's not waiting. He's moving now. 3 minutes before fusion expires, Tony reported. Gogeta, can you fight at full capacity right up until the timer runs out? Better question, can I fight after? Gogeta's aura exploded outward, golden energy cascading through the sanctums. Interior without damaging anything. Perfect control, despite overwhelming power. Because when this fusion drops, Goku and Vegeta will both have full strength. You won't lose combat effectiveness, just tactical unity. Then we move now. Captain America's voice carried command authority. Thor, Stark, you're with me and Gogeta for initial response. Dr. Strange, maintain sanctum defenses and coordinate with Wong on the mystical research. If this is Kong, we need to know his full capabilities before we commit to extended engagement. Understood. Strange was already opening a portal, golden sparks coalescing into a view of Central Park, where reality was indeed rippling like heat shimmer. Gogeta, one warning before you go. Kong has technology that can manipulate personal timelines. He could potentially accelerate your fusion's expiration, or trap you in temporal loops. Noted. Gogeta stepped toward the portal, then paused. Actually, that gives me an idea. If he can manipulate time, that means his technology is vulnerable to sufficiently overwhelming force applied, faster than his systems can compensate. In my universe, we call that they hit it really hard before it can think strategy. Ah, yes, Tony said dryly. The Hulk doctrine of tactical combat. If it works, it's not stupid. Gogeta grinned. And for a moment both Goku's playful confidence and Vegeta's savage anticipation shone through. And trust me, Stark, I can hit things very, very hard. 2 minutes, the warning echoed. Then let's make them count. Captain America stepped through the portal, shield raised, eyes already scanning for threats. Thor followed, lightning crackling around Stormbreaker. Come, Fusion Warrior. Let us see how this Kong handles the combined might of Asgard and the Scion race. Tony's repulsors charged as he flew through. Friday, start recording. If we're about to watch a cosmic fusion warrior fight a time-traveling warlord, I want documentation. Gogeta took one last look at Dr. Strange, who nodded once, an acknowledgement between warriors, who understood power's true weight. Then the fusion warriors stepped through the portal into Central Park, where reality was tearing itself apart and something vast and terrible was beginning to emerge. From the temporal distortion, Kong the Conqueror had come to claim his prize. He was about to learn why you should never try to cage a Scion. Central Park's usual afternoon. Serenity had been replaced by something that looked like a Salvador Dali painting come to violent life. Trees bent at impossible angles, their branches extending into yesterday and tomorrow simultaneously. The lake's surface rippled with reflections of events that hadn't happened yet, or had happened centuries ago. Joggers and tourists had been evacuated by SHIELD agents, forming a perimeter 3 blocks out, their weapons trained on the epicenter, where a sphere of distorted Time hung 15 feet above Bethesda Fountain, and from that sphere, something was watching. Gogeta emerged from strange portal onto the park's central lawn, his key sense immediately painting a picture that made even his fused tactical mind pause. The temporal distortion wasn't just bending time, it was layering it, creating a space where multiple timelines existed simultaneously. He could sense echoes of battles that might happen, fragments of conversations from potential futures, the weight of decisions not yet made. Fascinating, he murmured. In my universe, time manipulation is divine territory, something only Supreme Kais and angels can reliably manage. Here, someone's turned it into a weapon. Not just someone. Tony landed beside him, his armor's sensors going haywire trying to process the temporal data. Kong isn't from our time. He's from the 31st century, where they've had 1,000 years to perfect technology. We're just starting to understand. Time travel, alternate reality navigation, temporal warfare, it's all standard arsenal for him. Captain America took up a defensive position, shield raised, his enhanced senses straining to track movement within the distortion. Friday, what are we looking at? Temporal displacement field, Captain. The sphere contains at least 17 overlapping timeline fragments, all anchored to this specific moment, but extending across a probability tree that branches into. Friday's processing, boss. This is beyond my computational capacity. Translation, it's really bad, Tony summarized. Thor, can you hit it with lightning? Maybe disrupt the temporal cohesion. The god of thunder raised Stormbreaker, divine energy crackling along the weapon's blade. I can try, but Asgardian magic and mortal time manipulation have historically not interacted well. The last time I struck a temporal anomaly, I accidentally aged forward 3 days and backward 2 hours simultaneously. That sounds extremely unpleasant, Gogeta observed, his eyes narrowing as he studied the distortion structure. His fused consciousness was parsing patterns, Vegeta's analytical mind identifying weak points while Goku's combat instinct traced energy flows. The sphere isn't actually containing anything. It's a doorway being held open from the other side. Whoever's coming through is taking their time, probably scanning us first. Tactical assessment, Steve asked, trusting the alien warrior's combat experience. Whoever's on the other side has the advantage of information and preparation. We're reactive, defensive, and spread across a perimeter they've chosen. Textbook ambush setup. Gogeta's aura flickered, golden light washing across the grass without burning it. My recommendation, I go in first, fast and overwhelming. Force them to react to me instead of executing their plan. You three provide support and capitalize on whatever openings I create. That's remarkably tactical for someone who claims to be too combat-focused. Personalities, Tony noted. Vegeta was a prince and military commander before he was Earth's defender. He understands strategy. Gogeta's smirk carried equal parts, confidence and anticipation. And Goku has a doctorate in improvise until something works. Combined, I'm actually quite effective at tactical combat. 1 minute 30 seconds, Tony announced, his timer still counting down to the fusion's expiration. Then I'd better make it impressive. Gogeta crouched slightly, and the ground beneath his feet cracked from the pressure of contained power. When I move, it's going to be fast. Don't try to follow. Just be ready for whatever comes out after. I break their formation. Wait, Steve started, but Gogeta was already gone. The fusion warrior didn't run or fly in any conventional sense. He simply was in front of the temporal sphere one instant, where he'd been standing the next instant becoming an afterthought. The movement was so fast that the sonic boom arrived 3 seconds after he'd already reached his destination, washing over the Avengers like a physical slap. Jesus, Tony breathed. Friday, did you track that? Negative, boss. One moment he was stationary. The next he'd traversed 200 meters. No acceleration phase detected. It's as if he deleted the distance between himself and his destination. That's instant transmission. Gogeta's voice came through their comm system despite him not wearing any communication device. He'd apparently learned to vibrate air molecules at precisely the right frequency to create sound directly in their ears. Though I didn't use it just then. That was just moving really fast. You'll know when I use instant transmission. It's instantaneous and requires locking onto a key signature. Before anyone could respond, Gogeta thrust his hand into the temporal distortion. Reality screamed. The sphere collapsed inward. 17 timeline fragments compressing into a single moment of impossible clarity. Gogeta's expression shifted from confident to surprised to analytically fascinated in the span of a microsecond. Well, he said conversationally, his arm buried up to the shoulder in distorted time. This is more complicated than I thought. Then he pulled. Something massive tore through the dimensional barrier, not a person, but a construct. A suit of armor towering 15 feet tall, covered in blue and purple plating that hummed with temporal energy. Each segment was inscribed with equations that seemed to rewrite themselves constantly, adapting to present conditions. The helmet's faceplate displayed a holographic projection of a human face, sharp features, calculating eyes, and a smile that suggested he'd planned for exactly this outcome. Fascinating. The figure's voice boomed across the park, synthesized yet carrying undeniable intelligence. I calculated a 73% probability that you'd lead with overwhelming force. You did not disappoint, Fusion Warrior. Kong the Conqueror had arrived, and he looked directly at Gogeta, with the confidence of someone who'd already fought this battle in 17 different timelines and won in 16 of them. You must be Kong, Gogeta said calmly, his hand still gripping the armor's wrist, despite the temporal energy crackling around the contact point. I hear you've been manipulating dimensional barriers to pull warriors from other universes. That's quite rude, especially without introductions first. Introductions? Kang's holographic face showed genuine amusement. I know everything about you, Gogeta. Born from the Metamoran fusion of Goku and Vegeta. Current power level oscillating between dimensions as your energy signature adjusts to local reality. Time remaining before fusion expires. 87 seconds. His smile widened. In Timeline Gamma 7, you lasted 93 seconds. In Timeline Delta 2, only 71. This timeline is tracking toward the higher end. He's been watching across multiple timelines. Tony's voice came through comms, his armor's sensors feeding data to the team. This isn't his first attempt to grab Gogeta. It's just the first successful one. Correct, Stark. Kang's attention didn't shift from Gogeta. I've observed 23 variations of this encounter across the probability tree. Most end with me capturing the Scion fusion. 3 end with his escape. 1 ends with, well, let's call it mutually assured devastation and leave it at that. And which timeline are we in now? Gogeta's tone remained conversational, but his grip tightened, and hairline fractures appeared in Kang's armor plating. The temporal energy intensified, trying to force his hand away, but the fusion warrior held firm. Undecided. That's what makes this attempt interesting. Kang's armored hand moved, faster than humanly possible, which made sense, as it was moving at accelerated temporal velocity. He struck Gogeta 3 times in the chest before the fusion warrior could react, each blow carrying the force of a collapsing star compressed into a single moment. Gogeta flew backward, cratering the ground where he landed, but was on his feet instantly. His GI showed scorch marks where Kang's strikes had landed, but his chest beneath was unmarked. Temporal acceleration plus kinetic amplification. Clever. Most beings would have been pulverized. Most beings aren't fusions of warriors who fought gods. Kang's armor shifted, segments rearranging into combat configuration. Weapons emerged from his forearms, not conventional firearms, but devices that looked like they could unmake matter at the quantum level. I've studied your universe extensively, Gogeta. I know about Super Scion forms, Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, and the theoretical fusion applications. I even know about your weakness. 70 seconds, Tony reported, though his voice carried tension now. My weakness. Gogeta's eyebrows rose. This should be entertaining. Time. Kang's weapons charged, temporal energy coalescing into coherent beams. Your fusion is bound by temporal constraints. 30 minutes at base form, less when exerting power. And here's the fascinating part. I can manipulate your personal timeline. He fired, and the beam struck Gogeta's center mass. The fusion warrior didn't fly backward or show injury. Instead, he flickered, his form oscillating between present, past, and future states. For a moment, the Avengers could see Gogeta as he'd been 5 seconds ago. then as he might be 5 seconds from now, all existing simultaneously in quantum superposition. Boss, his temporal signature is destabilizing. Friday's alarm was genuine. Kang's weapon is causing localized time distortion around Gogeta's body. If it continues, the fusion could expire prematurely or trap him in a temporal loop. Gogeta stood perfectly still within the temporal chaos. His expression, shifting from surprise to understanding, to something that looked dangerously close to Vegeta's savage grin. "Oh," he said quietly. "Oh, that was a mistake." Then he moved. The temporal distortion around Gogeta didn't dissipate, it shattered. Raw ki exploded outward. And where Kang's weapon had tried to manipulate the fusion warrior's personal timeline, Gogeta simply burned through the effect with overwhelming power. His aura flared golden, then shifted, hair lengthening, eyebrows disappearing, eyes turning teal. "Super Saiyan 3, Gogeta announced, his voice carrying harmonic resonance. "I was trying to avoid this because it drains fusion time faster. But you've presented a unique problem. Calm. You can manipulate my timeline, which means I need to operate outside conventional temporal flow entirely." "Impossible." Kang's holographic face showed its first crack of uncertainty. "My calculations show Super Saiyan 3 would reduce your fusion duration to under 30 seconds. You'd defuse before resolving this engagement. Your calculations assume I'm fighting to win." Gogeta's transformed state radiated power that made the air itself crystallize into glittering fractals. "I'm not. I'm fighting to ensure that when I split into Goku and Vegeta, you've expended enough resources that they can finish what I started." "That's..." Kong actually paused, recalculating. "Tactically sound. Damn you." 45 seconds, Tony reported, though his voice now carried something like awe. "He just spent half his remaining time to power up. That's either brilliant or insane." "Both," Captain America said. "It's both. Thor, be ready when that fusion drops. We need to keep Kong occupied until the two Scions orient themselves." Thor's response was drowned out by Gogeta's sudden movement. The fusion warrior crossed the distance to Kong in literally zero time. True. Instant transmission, teleporting directly into melee range. His fist connected with the armor's chest plate, and the temporal construct that had taken 31st century engineers decades to perfect simply crumpled. Metal screamed. Energy systems overloaded. Kang's holographic face flickered in and out of coherence. 28 seconds, Gogeta said conversationally, following up with a combination that would have made professional fighters weep, not from beauty, but from the sheer ruthless efficiency. Every strike hit a critical junction in Kang's armor. Every impact was calculated to cause maximum systemic damage with minimum wasted motion. Kong attempted to counter, his armor's weapons discharging at point-blank range. Temporal distortion beams, quantum dissolution rays, probability, manipulation fields, an arsenal that could unmake planets struck. Gogeta simultaneously. The fusion warrior tanked every hit. His Super Saiyan 3 form absorbing damage that would have vaporized lesser beings. His GI was shredding, his body showing burns and impact trauma, but he kept pressing forward with mechanical precision. 15 seconds. "You're going to kill yourself." Kang's voice had lost its calculated calm. "The feedback from my weapons at this range will destabilize your cellular structure even if you survive the initial damage." "Probably." Gogeta's hands locked onto Kang's helmet, and he began to pull. Temporal shielding sparked and failed. Structural integrity collapsed. "But here's what you didn't account for in your timelines. Conqueror, I don't fight alone." 10 seconds. The helmet tore free, revealing not a human face, but a holographic projection chamber connected to quantum processing cores that extended across multiple timelines. Simultaneously, Kong wasn't physically present. He was operating the armor remotely from his fortress in the time stream, connected through probability manipulation. "A puppet." Gogeta's expression darkened. "You weren't even brave enough to face me directly. Bravery is irrelevant. Only victory matters." Kang's projection flickered as his armor systems began catastrophic failure. "And I've already won. You've expended yourself completely. When your fusion drops, Goku and Vegeta will be vulnerable, and I'll have temporal stasis fields ready to." 5 seconds. Gogeta looked directly into the projection chamber, and his smile was pure Scion savage joy. You calculated 16 timelines where you win. I just made sure this is the 17th. Then, he thrust both hands into the armor's core and unleashed every remaining ounce of his ki in a single, catastrophic burst. The explosion wasn't fire or force. It was pure energy expressing itself as light, heat, pressure, and something that looked like reality itself crying out in protest. The temporal sphere that had anchored Kang's connection shattered into quantum fragments. The armor disintegrated. The equations inscribed on every surface rewrote themselves into gibberish before evaporating into probability foam. And Gogeta's fusion expired. Where one warrior had stood, now two materialized, falling, smoking, injured, but alive. Goku hit the ground first, his orange GI torn and bloodied. His breathing labored, but his eyes immediately snapping open to assess threats. Vegeta landed a second later. His characteristic armor shattered, but he was already rolling to his feet with a snarl on his lips. Status. Goku's voice carried exhaustion, but also immediate alertness. Kang's armor destroyed, Tony reported, his sensors sweeping for remaining threats. But the temporal distortion is collapsing unstably. Strange, we need cleanup. Dr. Strange was already there. Golden portals depositing him directly into the crater where Kang's armor had been. His hands wove through complex patterns, stabilizing temporal fractures before they could propagate. The connection to Kang's fortress has been severed, but he'll rebuild. He always does. Vegeta spat blood, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. So we didn't win. We just delayed him. We did better than that. Captain America approached the two Scions, shield lowered in a gesture of respect. Gogeta forced Kong to expend resources he'd prepared across 17 timelines. That's 17 different strategies he now has to recalculate. And more importantly, Steve looked between Goku and Vegeta. He learned that Scions don't fight by conventional rules. Goku grinned despite his injuries. That characteristic expression that had unnerved gods and encouraged allies across his universe. Gogeta's memories are already integrating. I know everything that happened. You guys are pretty impressive, taking on threats like Thanos with just your combined strength. Just our combined strength, Tony repeated flatly. We had the most powerful artifacts in the universe and lost half our team. I wouldn't call that just anything. Sorry. Goku had the grace to look embarrassed. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant you don't have ki or transformations, or... He means, Vegeta interrupted, still scanning for threats with warrior's paranoia, that your universe's power ceiling is different from ours. But you've maximized efficiency within those constraints. It's actually tactically commendable. He paused, then added grudgingly, for humans and aliens with limited enhancement potential. I think that was a compliment, Steve said. I'll take it. Thor landed beside them, Stormbreaker still crackling with power. The temporal distortions are fading, but Strange believes Kong will return. He strikes me as the type who does not accept defeat gracefully. Oh, he'll be back. Goku was already stretching, his Scion physiology rapidly healing the damage Gogeta had sustained. But now we know his tricks. The temporal manipulation, the timeline calculations, the remote-operated armor. Next time we'll be ready. Next time? Tony's faceplate retracted. You're talking like you're staying. Goku and Vegeta exchanged glances, a conversation happening in that look that spoke of battles fought together, rivals who'd become brothers, and decisions made without words. Gogeta made an alliance, Vegeta said finally. We honor that. Besides, his expression hardened. This Kong bastard dragged us here against our will. I don't appreciate being manipulated. He's earned a Scion's grudge. Plus, Goku added with genuine enthusiasm, you guys have some really interesting fighters. I sensed your power levels during the fight. Thor's divine energy is amazing. And Tony's arc reactor tech generates energy signatures I've never encountered. I'd love to spar, learn your techniques, maybe teach some key control in return. We're not here to play games. Kakarot, Vegeta snapped, though the use of Goku's Scion name carried more familiarity than hostility. We're trapped in this universe until dimensional barriers stabilize. Might as well make ourselves useful while Strange and his wizards figure out how to send us home. Dr. Strange finished his temporal stabilization work and approached the group. Speaking of which, I've completed initial analysis of the breach. The good news, your arrival didn't cause permanent damage to dimensional walls. The bad news, the damage Kong did trying to pull you through will take weeks to fully repair, possibly months. During that time, you're stuck here. Months. Goku's face fell. But Chi-Chi is going to be so mad. And I was supposed to help Gohan with his training and… Focus, Kakarot, Vegeta interrupted. We have more immediate problems, like the fact that this universe apparently has time-traveling warlords, infinity stones that grant omnipotence, and God knows what else. That might make our tournament of power look tame by comparison. Actually, Tony pulled up holographic displays showing various threat assessments. He's not wrong. Since you guys are temporarily residents of Earth, 616, you should probably know what you're dealing with. We've got Galactus, who eats planets. The Celestials, who judge civilizations and destroy failed ones. Dormammu, who rules a dimension of pure evil. Thanos, well, you heard about him. Ultron, a rogue AI that keeps coming back. The Phoenix Force, which is cosmic fire incarnate. And those are just the extinction-level threats we know about. Goku's eyes were literally sparkling. This universe is amazing. So many strong opponents. Vegeta pinched the bridge of his nose. You're an idiot. But I'm your idiot, Goku countered cheerfully. That doesn't make it better. Captain America watched the two scions bicker with something like fond recognition. They remind me of Tony and me when we first started working together. Hey, Tony protested. I'm way more sophisticated than the murder-happy prince over there. You built 57 suits of armor because you were anxious. Steve countered. That's not sophistication, that's obsession. It's tactical preparation. Guys, Goku interrupted the developing argument. Not to be rude, but is there somewhere we can get food? Gogeta used a lot of energy in that fight, and Scion metabolisms require massive caloric intake to maintain power levels. I'm literally starving right now. As if on cue, both Goku and Vegeta's stomachs growled loudly enough to be audible over the shield cleanup. Crews beginning to secure the area. Tony stared at them. You just fought a time-traveling warlord. Tanked weapons that can unmake matter. And your first priority is lunch. Yes, both scions answered simultaneously. Thor laughed, a booming sound that echoed across the damaged park. I like them. Warriors who know that victory means nothing if you cannot. Celebrate with feasting afterward. He clapped both Goku and Vegeta on the shoulders. With enough force to stagger normal humans, they didn't budge. Come. I know a shawarma place that serves portions worthy of Asgardian appetites. Shawarma. Goku's face lit up. What's that? Is it good? How many can I eat? All of them, apparently, Strange said dryly. Tony, arrange accommodations for our guests. They'll need somewhere to stay while we work on their return passage. On it, Tony was already coordinating through Friday. I'll set them up in Avengers Tower. We've got spare rooms since we lost people. Might as well use them. Vegeta's expression softened almost imperceptibly at the mention of loss. We understand. It was perhaps the most human thing he'd said since arriving. As the group began making their way out of Central Park, SHIELD agents, establishing perimeter security, and Mystic specialists working with Strange to ensure no temporal contamination remained. Goku fell into step beside Captain America. Hey, Captain. Thanks for trusting us back there. I know we're strangers from another universe, and we could have been threats. But you gave us a chance anyway. Steve smiled. Gogeta earned that trust. And you too are honoring his word. That says something about your character. Well, we're not perfect, Goku admitted. Vegeta used to be a planet destroyer. I've died like 5 times. 6. I lose count. We've both made huge mistakes. But we keep trying to be better. That's all anyone can do, Steve said. Keep trying. Keep fighting for what's right. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Behind them, Vegeta was engaged in what looked like an intense debate with Thor about the relative merits of divine power versus self-achieved transformation. Tony was documenting everything while simultaneously running calculations about whether scion biology could be studied without causing an interplanetary incident. Dr. Strange opened a portal back to the sanctum, where Wong was undoubtedly continuing his research into multiversal mechanics and summoning rituals. The mystic aspects of this situation would take time to fully understand. But for now, immediate crisis averted. New allies established, and Kong temporarily pushed back. The Avengers and their unexpected Scion guests had earned a moment of respite. That moment would last approximately 3 hours before the next crisis emerged. But that was Future's problem. Present's problem was explaining to a restaurant manager why 2 alien warriors needed 70 pounds of food each. Some battles couldn't be won with power, only with patience and a very large credit card. Detective Chimp's office occupied a corner of the Oblivion bar that existed in a pocket, dimensions slightly to the left of reality. Hellboy had seen stranger things, but the sight of a chimpanzee in a deerstalker cap, smoking a pipe and studying crime scene photographs, still required a mental adjustment. "You're staring," Detective Chimp said without looking up from his work. His voice was refined, intelligent, with a slight British accent. "Everyone stares. Yes, I'm a chimpanzee. Yes, I'm a detective. Yes, I'm better at it than most humans. Can we move past the novelty now?" "Sure," Hellboy said, settling into a chair that creaked alarmingly. "I've worked with a psychic fishman and a pyrokinetic who could vaporize cities. A talking chimp barely registers." Detective Chimp, Bobo T, chimpanzee, according to the nameplate on his desk, finally looked up. His eyes were sharp, analytical, missing nothing. "Jason says you need information. Specifically, a crash course in who wants to kidnap, kill, or corrupt you in this universe. That's a longer list than you might think." "I'm getting that impression." Bobo pulled out a file, actual paper, organized with color-coded tabs. "I've been compiling this since your arrival. Call it professional curiosity. Let's start with the immediate threats." He flipped to the first section. "Naren, Duke of Hell, specializes in deals and corruption. His MO is offering you exactly what you want in exchange for your soul, or, in your case, use of the hand. He's patient, subtle, and has successfully corrupted heroes before. John Constantine owes him favors. Naren will try to leverage those. Constantine's working with demons? Constantine's survival strategy involves owing favors to everyone while preventing anyone from collecting. It's exhausting to watch." Bobo moved to the next tab. "The First of the Fallen, Hell's original rebel, makes Naren look like middle management. Less subtle, more powerful, fundamentally opposed to divine order. If he decides the hand threatens heaven's plans, he'll try to claim it. If he thinks it serves them, he'll try to destroy it. He's unpredictable. And Darkseid, different category entirely." Bobo pulled out photographs, grainy, surveillance shots of apocalypse, Omega beam scorch marks, testimonials from survivors of Darkseid's conquest. The new gods exist on a higher tier of reality than most beings. Darkseid isn't just powerful, he's a concept. Tyranny given form. The anti-life equation he seeks is literally mathematical proof that free will doesn't exist. If he gets it, everyone becomes his slave. No resistance, no choice, just obedience. Hellboy studied the photos. Cities reduced to ash, planets reshaped into industrial nightmares. And everywhere, Darkseid's Omega symbol, a warning and a promise. He's interested in my hand because it opens dimensional barriers. Precisely. The anti-life equation exists somewhere. Maybe in the source wall, maybe in a sealed dimension, maybe written into reality's code. But Darkseid believes the hand could access it. Bobo's expression was grave. And he's not wrong. Your hand resonates with fundamental cosmic structures. In theory, if properly utilized, it could open anything, including whatever box the universe locked the anti-life equation in. So I'm the key to universal slavery. Great. Or universal freedom. Bobo flipped to another section, this one, filled with mystical symbols and prophecy translations. That's what makes you interesting. Every prophecy about the right hand of doom assumes you'll use it destructively. But prophecies are just probability calculations written in mystical language. They show the most likely outcome, not the only outcome. You've been defying probability for 70 years. You've done your homework. I'm a detective. Homework is the job. Bobo tapped another file. Now, the wild cards. Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins. He's seen your arrival, and his strategic mind is working overtime. You're either a threat to his ecological balance or a tool to enforce it. Expect contact soon, probably through his daughter Talia or his grandson Damien. Damian Wayne, Batman's son. The same. Trained as an assassin, learning heroism from Bruce, torn between two legacies. He'll be testing you, determining if you're worthy of his father's trust. Bobo's expression softened slightly. He's a good kid. Prickly, but good. Hellboy absorbed the information. In 3 days, he'd gone from dimensional refugee to the most wanted key in the universe. Every faction with power wanted him, as ally, prisoner, or corpse. It was exhausting. What about allies? He asked. Besides Batman, Zatanna, Constantine, and Jason. Ah, Bobo pulled out a different folder, this one marked with a Green Lantern symbol. That depends on who accepts you. The Justice League is divided. Superman sees potential. He likes redemption stories. Wonder Woman respects your warrior spirit, but will test it. The Flash is optimistic, but wary. Green Lantern's core has concerns about dimensional anomalies. Aquaman doesn't care as long as you stay out of the oceans. And Batman. Batman's problem is that he sees everyone as a potential threat and prepares accordingly. But he also recognizes integrity. You've proven yours, refusing Naren, rejecting Darkseid, nearly cutting off your own hand, rather than triggering apocalypse. Bobo's voice held approval. He'll advocate for you, but his advocacy comes with surveillance. He'll watch you. Always. I can live with that. Can you live with this? Bobo produced one more file, the thickest yet. These are the hero teams that might recruit you. Justice League Dark, magical specialists. They're your best fit thematically. Zatanna's already vouching for you. Then there's the Outsiders, heroes who operate outside traditional Justice League oversight. Batman leads them when he's frustrated with League politics. There's also the Shadow Pact, Doom Patrol if they're active in this timeline, and various independent operators. Hellboy scanned the files. So many heroes. So many teams. So many potential alliances and conflicts. His BPRD had been simple, small team, clear mission, minimal politics. This universe was a labyrinth of factional interests. What do you recommend? He asked. Bobo considered carefully. Stay independent initially. Work with Justice League Dark on mystical threats. That's your expertise. Help Batman occasionally. He'll provide resources and intel. But maintain your own identity. Don't become someone else's soldier. The chimp's eyes were serious. This universe has a problem with powerful beings losing themselves in service to causes or corruption from power. You've maintained your identity for 7 decades. Don't lose it here. The advice was sound. Hellboy nodded slowly. Thanks. This helps. One more thing. Bobo pulled out a final photograph, this one showing a man in a trench coat, fedora covering half his face, standing in shadows that seemed too deep. The question. Vic Sage, conspiracy theorist, detective, seeker of truth. He's been investigating your arrival independently. His theory is that you're part of a larger pattern, dimensional breaches increasing, reality walls thinning, something preparing for a major incursion. Is he right? I don't know. But the question is rarely completely wrong. Just excessively paranoid. Bobo closed his files. He'll contact you eventually. When he does, listen. His conclusions are wild, but his data is usually solid. A knock interrupted them, not on the door, but on reality itself, as if someone was politely rapping on the dimensional barriers. Bobo sighed. That'll be Zatanna. She said she'd portal in once you were briefed. Reality twisted, and Zatanna stepped through, wearing considerably less formal attire than the magician's outfit, jeans, leather jacket, combat boots, battle gear. Hellboy, she said urgently. We've got a situation. Cult of the Crimson Dawn hit again. Different location, same goal. They're trying to force your hand to activate. But this time they've got hostages. Hellboy was already standing. Where? Gotham Cathedral. 20 civilians, including a children's choir. Dr. Hurt is demanding you come personally, or he starts killing them one by one. Zatanna's expression was grim. It's a trap. Obviously a trap. But we can't let kids die. Hellboy checked his revolver. Confirmed ammunition. So we spring the trap and deal with it. Batman's already en route with Robin, Zatanna said. Constantine's meeting us there. He thinks he can counter whatever ritual Hurt's preparing. But Hellboy. She paused. Hurt isn't working alone anymore. Our sources say he's made a deal. The kind of deal that puts demonic power behind his cult. Naren. Worse. The first of the fallen. The name hung in the air like a curse. Bobo's ears flattened against his head. Hell's original rebel backing a mortal cult? That's unprecedented. What could Hurt offer that would interest? The chimp stopped, eyes widening. Oh, oh no. What? Hellboy demanded. He offered you, Bobo said quietly. Not your cooperation. Not an alliance. He's offered to deliver you, bound and helpless, to the first of the fallen in exchange for power to reshape reality. And if the first of the fallen has agreed, then this isn't just a hostage situation, Zatanna finished. It's an execution. They're going to try to kill you, take the hand, and use it to tear down the barriers between Earth and Hell. Hellboy absorbed that. Assassination plot. Hostages as bait. Demon Lord backing the play. In his world, this would be a Thursday. But here, the stakes felt higher. The hand resonated with more. Could do more damage if stolen. The potential for catastrophe was exponentially greater. We need backup, he said. Not just Batman and Constantine. Everyone. I've already sent word to the League, Zatanna confirmed. But Gotham Cathedral is warded now. Hurt's people worked fast. Only mystics can enter, and even then it's limited. The first of the Fallen's influence is saturating the space. We're looking at you. Me, Constantine. Maybe Etrigan if we can convince Jason to transform. That's it. Robert, Hellboy asked. Damien's a wild card. Batman trained him, but he's still learning to be a hero instead of an assassin. And he's... Zatanna chose her words. Carefully, eager to prove himself, which makes him dangerous in situations like this. Great. So he'd be working with a magical stage performer. A con man who owed debts to every demon in hell. Possibly a rhyming demon, and a child trained by assassins. Against a cult backed by the original fallen angel and armed with power to reshape reality. Well, Hellboy said, loading special ammunition into his gun, rounds blessed by a priest, carved with protective symbols, designed to hurt things that shouldn't exist. At least it won't be boring. Zatanna opened a portal, this one more stable than Constantine's, shaped like a doorway of reversed words. Through it, Hellboy could see Gotham Cathedral's Gothic spires against the night sky, rain falling in sheets. He could already feel it, the pull of his hand towards something in that building. The first of the fallen was calling to it, trying to activate it remotely. One thing, Hellboy said before stepping through. He looked at Bobo, at the files spread across the desk. If this goes wrong, if I can't control the hand, and it opens something terrible, you tell Batman to activate whatever contingency he's building for me. Don't hesitate. Don't try to save me. Just stop whatever comes through. Bobo's eyes were sad but understanding. He already has it prepared. Tower of Babel protocols. Method, mystical severance followed by dimensional exile. Estimated success rate, 43%. He doesn't like those odds. Better than zero. Hellboy stepped toward the portal. Let's go save some kids and ruin a demon lord's evening. He stepped through into Gotham's reign, and the night swallowed him whole. Behind him, Bobo sat alone in his office, staring at the files. 70 years, Hellboy had maintained his war against destiny. How long could anyone maintain that perfect record? And what happened when, not if, but when, that record broke? The detective pulled out a bottle of scotch he kept for bad days and poured himself a drink. This was going to be one of those nights where heroes died, lines were crossed, and the universe learned once again that power, no matter how nobly wielded, always carried a terrible price. He just hoped Hellboy survived learning that lesson. Gotham Cathedral had been built in 1873 by architects who understood that God required grandeur. Its spires clawed at the perpetually overcast sky, gargoyles leering down at the streets below, stained glass windows depicting saints and martyrs in their final agonies. Tonight, those windows glowed with sickly green light that pulsed like a diseased heartbeat. Hellboy landed in the cathedral's courtyard, his boots splashing in puddles that reflected distorted versions of the Gothic architecture. Zatanna materialized beside him, already muttering defensive incantations. Constantine appeared third, not through a portal, but simply walking out of shadows as if he'd been there all along. Cigarette glowing in the darkness. Right, Constantine said, studying the building. That's not good. The cathedral's stones were breathing. Hellboy could see it, subtle expansion and contraction, as if the building itself had become a living long. Symbols carved into the architecture glowed with infernal light, arranged in patterns that made his eyes water when he looked directly at them. The first of the fallen has marked this place, Zatanna said, her voice tight. It's halfway to becoming hell property. If we enter, we're on his territory. How long do the hostages have? Hellboy asked. Minutes. Maybe less. Then we don't have time for safe. Hellboy started toward the main entrance. But Constantine grabbed his arm. Hold on, mate. You can't just waltz in there. That's exactly what they want you. Isolated, surrounded by their power. Constantine pointed to the roof where a familiar silhouette perched. Batman's up top with Robin, trying to find another entrance. Give them 30 seconds to. The cathedral doors exploded outward. Dr. Simon Hertz stood in the entrance, his red and black mask soaked with rain, flanked by cultists whose eyes had been replaced with burning coals. Behind them, Hellboy could see the interior, the hostages huddled in pews, guarded by more cultists. And in the center, drawn in what looked like molten gold, a summoning circle large enough to hold something massive. Hellboy, Hertz's voice carried over the rain. How punctual. The first of the fallen appreciates punctuality. It suggests respect. I'm here for the hostages, Hellboy called back. Let them go, and we can discuss whatever philosophical garbage you're selling. Oh, the hostages. Hurt gestured, and one of the cultists dragged a child forward, a girl, maybe 10, part of the choir based on her robes. She was crying, terrified. They're quite safe. For now. But their continued safety depends entirely on your cooperation. Zatanna's hands glowed with power, ready to attack, but Hellboy held up his left hand. Not yet. They needed the right moment. What cooperation? He asked, playing for time. Simple. Enter the cathedral. Stand in the circle. Allow the first of the fallen to claim the right hand of doom. Hertz. Tone was reasonable, conversational, as if discussing whether rather than murder and cosmic theft. In exchange, the hostages go free. The cult ceases operations in Gotham. Everyone wins. Except me. You're a demon, Hellboy. You were never meant to win. You were meant to serve. Hertz's mask seemed to grin wider. The first of the fallen has shown me such wonders. Realities where demons rule. Dimensions where hell's hierarchy has conquered heaven. Universes where free will was always the lie I suspected it was. He can make this world better. Cleaner. Free from the chaos of choice. But he needs the key. He needs your hand. From the roof, Batman's voice came through a calm unit Constantine wore. We're in position. Robin's got a clear shot at the hostages' guards. Hellboy, keep him talking. So you traded humanity's free will for power, Hellboy said. Taking a step forward, rain streamed off his coat, his stone hand glowing, faintly in response to the demonic energies, saturating the cathedral. Original plan. No one's ever thought of that before. Mock if you wish. Hertz's composure never cracked. But I've seen your world, Hellboy. The BPRDs. Files were quite illuminating. Once we hacked their interdimensional resonance signatures, you spent 70 years fighting, struggling, denying your nature. And for what? A world that feared you? Colleagues who died around you? Professor Bruttenholm's corpse. The mention of Trevor Bruttenholm, the man who'd raised him, taught him, believed in him, hit harder than Hellboy expected. His hand tightened on his revolver. Don't, Zatanna whispered beside him. He's baiting you. I know, but knowing didn't make it easier. Your father figure died, Hellboy. Your friends died. Your lovers died. Everyone you've ever cared about has been consumed by the very struggle you perpetuate. Hertz spread his arms wide. The first of the fallen offers release. Give him the hand, and you can rest. No more fighting. No more pain. Just peace. For a moment, just a flicker, Hellboy was tempted. 70 years was a long time to fight. A long time to wake up every morning and choose to be something other than what destiny demanded. The weight of that choice accumulated like sediment, building into mountains of exhaustion and doubt. Then the little girl whimpered, and the moment passed. Here's the problem with your offer, Hellboy said, raising his voice so everyone could hear. Cultists, hostages, Batman and Robin on the roof, and whatever invisible audience the first of the fallen commanded. You're assuming I want peace more than I want to be me. That rest is worth more than choice. But I've spent 70 years learning something you apparently never figured out. He started walking forward, slowly, deliberately. Constantine and Zatanna moved with him, flanking. The struggle is the point, Hellboy continued. Every morning I wake up and choose not to be the monster. That's not burden, that's freedom. That's the only real freedom there is. And I'm not giving that up for you, your demon lord, or anyone else. Then you choose to watch these innocents die. Hert's hand moved toward the child's throat. Now, Robin. Batman's voice cracked through the night. From the roof, Robin, Damian Wayne, dropped like a stone wrapped in shadows. The boy was fast, trained by assassins and Batman both, moving with lethal precision. He hit the cultist holding the girl, disarming him with a move that would have broken an adult's wrist. The cultist went down. Damian grabbed the girl, rolled, came up with his katana drawn. The hostages are under the Bat's protection now, the boy announced, his voice carrying that peculiar mix of childish arrogance and genuine threat. Anyone who objects can discuss it with my blade. All hell broke loose. The cultists surged forward. Constantine's hands erupted with green fire, sending two of them flying. Zatanna's backward speech summoned shields and binding spells. Batman descended from the roof on a grapple line, batarangs flying with surgical precision, and Hellboy charged the cathedral entrance. Hurt stood his ground, pulling from his coat a blade that screamed with infernal power, forged in hell's depths, consecrated in innocent blood, designed specifically to harm beings of demonic heritage. The first of the fallen sends his regards. The blade came down with inhuman speed. Hellboy caught it on his stone hand. The metal shrieked as it struck, sending sparks flying. His right hand, which had opened dimensional gates and survived cosmic fires, held against hell-forged steel. Nice knife, Hellboy observed. Then he twisted, using leverage and his considerable mass to wrench the blade from Hurt's grip. Mine's louder. His revolver came up, pressed against Hurt's chest. At this range, even blessed ammunition would kill. One pull of the trigger, and the architect of this horror show would be gone. Hurt's eyes behind the mask showed no fear. Do it. Prove you're the monster everyone thinks you are. Hellboy's finger tightened on the trigger. From inside the cathedral, a voice spoke, ancient, cold, carrying the weight of existence's first rebellion. Yes, Hellboy, pull the trigger. Embrace what you are, what you've always been. The first of the fallen materialized in the summoning circle, not fully, not yet, but enough to manifest. He appeared as a beautiful man with wings of burned shadow, perfect features marred by eyes that had seen the face of God and chosen rejection. His very presence made reality flinch. You've fought so long. The first of the fallen continued, his voice a whisper that cut through the chaos of battle. Resisted your purpose, denied your heritage. But here, now, with your enemy at your mercy, what choice will you make? The heroic restraint that lets evil live to kill another day? Or the pragmatic solution that saves future innocence? It was the oldest trap, the philosophical snare that had caught better heroes than Hellboy. Kill the villain, become like them. Let them live, enable future atrocities. No clean answer, just impossible choices and the hope you could live with whatever you decided. Hellboy looked down at Dr. Hurt, saw behind the mask a man who'd tortured Batman, murdered children, bargained with demons. A man who would absolutely kill again if allowed to walk away. Then he looked at Robin, Damian, protecting the hostages with a katana in his small hands. A child trained as an assassin, who'd been taught by Batman that there was a better way. That killing was a line you didn't cross because once you crossed it, you could never fully come back. You want to know my choice? Hellboy said to the first of the fallen. He pulled the trigger. The gun fired, not at Hurt's chest, but past him, into the golden summoning circle. The blessed round, designed to harm demonic entities, struck the mystical geometry and detonated. The circle exploded in white light, its careful patterns disrupted. The doorway the first of the fallen was using shattered. The demon lord's scream of rage shook the cathedral to its foundations. His partial manifestation collapsed. Sucked back into hell, the connection severed. Hellboy slammed his stone hand into Hurt's chest. Not lethal, but devastating. Hurt flew backward, crashed into a pew, and didn't get up. Alive. Defeated, but alive. I choose to keep being me. Hellboy said to the space where the first of the fallen had been. Every single day. The cultists, their demonic backing gone. Their leader unconscious, broke and ran. Batman and Robin secured the hostages. Zatanna and Constantine worked to cleanse the cathedral of infernal taint. And Hellboy stood in the ruins of another attempted apocalypse, his stone hand still glowing faintly, feeling the weight of the choice he'd made. Not heroism, exactly. Not pragmatism either. Just consistency. The same choice he'd been making for 70 years. Now made once more in a universe that didn't know him yet. Batman approached, rain dripping from his cape. You could have killed him. Yeah, many would have. Hurt's crimes justify execution. Probably. But you didn't. Batman's voice carried something that might have been approval. Why? Hellboy looked at Robin, who was comforting the freed hostages with surprising gentleness. For a child raised by assassins. Because that kid is watching, learning what it means to be a hero instead of a killer. And I spent too long learning that lesson myself to teach him the wrong version now. For a long moment, Batman said nothing. Then, the Justice League meets tomorrow. Superman wants to meet you officially. Wonder Woman has questions. The decision on your status will be made. My status? Ally. Asset. Threat. Depending on the vote. Batman turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'll be advocating for ally. You've earned that much. High above, in the space between dimensions where the first of the fallen licked his wounds, the Demon Lord regarded Hellboy with new understanding. This was not a being who would be tempted by release or corrupted by necessity. This was something rarer, a demon who'd found his own way and would defend it against heaven, hell, and everything between. Interesting, the first of the fallen mused. Very interesting indeed. The game had changed. Again, the watchtower floated in geosynchronous orbit above Earth, a crystalline fortress that served as the Justice League's headquarters. Hellboy had seen impressive installations before, the BPRDs, underground facilities, ancient temples, alien spacecraft, but this was different. Through the observation windows, Earth hung like a blue-green jewel against the infinite black, so fragile and beautiful it made his chest ache. First time in space? Superman asked, floating beside him with the casual ease of someone for whom gravity was a polite suggestion. First time this high up voluntarily, Hellboy admitted. Usually when I'm leaving the planet, something's trying to kill me. Superman smiled, genuine, warm, the kind of smile that made you understand why people called him the man of hope. I know the feeling, though in my case, it's usually the planet I'm trying to save. He extended his hand. Clark Kent. Though I suppose you know me as Superman. Hellboy shook the offered hand carefully. Superman's grip was measured, controlled, but Hellboy could feel the power underneath, strength that could crack planets. Held in perfect check by a farm boy's morality. Hellboy, no secret identity. What you see is what you get. I appreciate honesty. Superman's expression grew more serious. I've read the reports. Zatanna's account of your arrival, Batman's analysis, Constantine's colorful commentary. You've made quite an impression in less than a week. Not intentionally. The best impressions rarely are. Superman gestured toward the conference room where the rest of the League waited. Before we go in there, I want you to know something. The Justice League has faced beings of immense power who claimed good intentions. Some became trusted allies. Others, his jaw tightened. Others became threats we had to stop. So when we assess you today, understand, it's not personal. It's necessary. I get it, Hellboy said. You've got a Superman from another timeline who became a dictator. Of course you're careful. Superman's eyes widened fractionally. Batman showed you the injustice files. Hard to understand this universe without understanding its worst possibilities. Hellboy met the Kryptonian's gaze steadily. That's what you're wondering, isn't it? Whether I could become that. Whether power plus good intentions eventually equals tyranny. The question haunts me every day, Superman admitted quietly. I have the power to enforce peace, end war, prevent crime through fear. The injustice timeline shows what happens when I stop trusting humanity to make its own choices. He paused. But you've been carrying apocalyptic power for 70 years without succumbing. That suggests either extraordinary restraint or extraordinary deception. We need to determine which. Fair enough. They entered the conference room together. The Justice League had assembled, not just the core members, but a broader representation. At the head of the table sat Wonder Woman, her armor gleaming, the lasso of truth coiled at her hip. Batman occupied his customary position in the shadows, cowl hiding his expression. The flash, Barry Allen, vibrated slightly with barely contained energy, offering a friendly wave. Green Lantern Hal Jordan leaned back in his chair, ring glowing faintly. Aquaman looked profoundly bored, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. Cyborg monitored multiple screens simultaneously, and Martian Manhunter observed with eyes that saw far more than physical forms. Zatanna stood to the side with Constantine, neither full League members, but present as magical consultants. Detective Chimp sat on a specially modified chair, pipe in hand. Hellboy, Wonder Woman began, her voice carrying the authority of an Amazon. Princess and goddess touched. Warrior, welcome to the Watchtower. We've convened to discuss your presence in our universe and determine the appropriate course of action. Sounds like a trial, Hellboy observed, taking the empty seat indicated. His stone hand rested on the table. Impossible to hide, no point trying. It's an assessment, Wonder Woman corrected. We've faced dimensional refugees before. Some integrated peacefully. Others brought catastrophe with them. We need to understand which category you represent. Ask your questions. Green Lantern spoke first, his voice carrying military directness. Your hand, the right hand of doom. Batman's analysis suggests it can open dimensional barriers, unlock sealed gates, maybe even breach the source wall. That kind of power makes you either the most valuable asset in the universe or the most dangerous threat. Which is it? Both, Hellboy said bluntly. The hand is a key. Keys open things. Sometimes that's useful, getting people out of locked dimensions. Accessing knowledge sealed away. Sometimes it's catastrophic, releasing elder gods. Opening hell gates, triggering apocalypses. I've spent 70 years making sure it's the former and not the latter. And you've succeeded. Martian Manhunter's telepathic voice resonated in everyone's minds. Gentle but probing. Your thoughts are remarkably disciplined. I sense no deception, no hidden agenda. Just weariness and determination. His red eyes fixed on Hellboy. You're tired, but you never stop fighting. Why? Because stopping means surrendering, Hellboy said. And I watched too many good people die fighting the same fight too. Dishonor them by quitting. The Flash leaned forward, his young face earnest. Dude, I've got to ask, you're from another dimension, right? Do you want to go back? Because we've got access to interdimensional tech. Boom tubes, cosmic treadmills, motherbox connections. We could probably get you home. The question hung in the air. It was the obvious solution. Send the problem back where it came from. But Hellboy saw the faces around the table, saw them waiting for his answer, and realized this was a test. Would he run back to familiar territory? Or would he stay and face an unknown universe's challenges? I don't know if I can go back, Hellboy admitted. Constantine's summoning grabbed me mid-mission. My team, the BPRD, they're probably looking for me. But dimensional travel isn't precise. Even if you could open a portal, there's no guarantee it would connect to my exact timeline. I could end up in a universe where I never existed, or where things went differently, or where I'm already dead. He paused. And honestly, this universe needs help too. Different problems, same fight, keeping the darkness back. I can do that here as well as anywhere. Batman spoke for the first time, his gravelly voice cutting through the room. You rejected Naren's offer, Darkseid's invitation, and the first of the Fallen's temptation in under a week. That level of consistent refusal is either genuine moral conviction or an elaborate long game. I've prepared contingencies assuming the latter, but I want to believe it's the former. Believe what you want, Hellboy said. I can't prove my intentions beyond my actions. Either those actions speak for themselves, or they don't. They speak loudly, Wonder Woman said, and there was warmth in her voice now. You protected innocence at the cathedral. You refused to kill when killing would have been justified. You demonstrated restraint when using your demonic heritage, and power when protecting others. These are the actions of a warrior with honor, or someone playing a very patient game. Aquaman interjected, speaking for the first time. His tone was skeptical but not hostile. I've dealt with enough oceanic gods and elder beings to know that immortal creatures think in centuries, not moments. 70 years of good behavior could be establishing credibility for one. Catastrophic betrayal. Arthur has a point, Cyborg said, though his tone was more analytical than accusatory. My scans show your hand resonating with the Motherbox network. The Speed Force, the emotional spectrum, and at least 17 other fundamental cosmic structures. You're a walking universal key. If someone's using you as a Trojan horse, then they picked the wrong horse, Hellboy finished. Look, I understand the paranoia. I'd be paranoid too if I was you. But here's the thing. If I was going to betray anyone, I'd have done it already. Naren offered me everything I could want. Darkseid offered sanctuary and power. The first of the fallen offered peace. I said no to all of them because I'm not interested in shortcuts. I'm not interested in surrendering my choices to someone else's grand plan. Not even to us. Superman asked gently. Not even to you. Hellboy confirmed. I'll work with the Justice League. I'll fight alongside you. I'll coordinate, collaborate, and contribute. But I'm not joining as a subordinate. I'm not becoming someone's weapon or tool. I'm independent, and that stays non-negotiable. The room fell silent. The Justice League exchanged glances. Batman and Superman sharing some wordless communication born of years fighting together. Wonder Woman's expression thoughtful. The Flash looking excited. Green Lantern still skeptical. Finally, Wonder Woman spoke. You understand that we can't simply trust you unconditionally. Not with stakes this high. I do. And you understand that your presence has drawn attention from entities, Darkseid, the demon lords, various cults, that threaten Earth's security. Yeah, sorry about that. Don't apologize for existing. Wonder Woman's voice was firm. We've dealt with cosmic attention before. We'll deal with it again. She looked around the table. I propose we grant Hellboy provisional allied status. He operates independently, but coordinates with the League on threats involving his specific expertise, dimensional incursions, demonic activity, mystical crises. Batman maintains oversight through the Justice League Dark. We reconvene in 3 months to assess. Seconded, Superman said immediately. Thirded, Flash added. I still have reservations. Green Lantern said, but I'll vote yes. Provisionally. The Martian Manhunter agrees. John's telepathic voice resonated. His mind is honorable. Aquaman abstains. Arthur said with a shrug. Not my circus, not my Kraken. Just keep the chaos out of the oceans. Cyborg votes yes, Victor said. But I'm flagging you in the security system. Standard protocol for high-power unknowns. All eyes turned to Batman. The Dark Knight's silence stretched. Everyone knew his vote would carry weight. He'd worked most closely with Hellboy, studied him most thoroughly, prepared the contingencies everyone feared. Yes, Batman finally said. Allied status. With conditions. Name them, Hellboy said. You check in weekly with Justice League Dark. You inform us if your hand's behavior changes or if you experience compulsions. You can't explain. And you accept that if you become compromised, possessed, corrupted, or controlled, we will stop you by any means necessary, including lethal force. Agreed, Hellboy said without hesitation. If I go dark, you put me down. I'd expect nothing less. Batman nodded, something like respect flickering in his posture. Then welcome to Earth's defense, Hellboy. Try not to end the world. I'll do my best. The formal assessment concluded, but as everyone filed out, Superman lingered. Hellboy a word. They stood by the observation window again, Earth rotating slowly below. Superman's expression was troubled, vulnerable in ways his public persona rarely showed. I meant what I said earlier, Superman began quietly. The injustice timeline haunts me, knowing that somewhere, some version of me became exactly what Lex Luthor always warned about, that I let one tragedy turn me into a monster. You're worried you could become that, Hellboy said. It wasn't a question. Every day, every decision, I have the power to force peace, to make humanity safe whether they want it or not. And some days, when I see senseless violence, preventable suffering, evil triumphing, because good people stayed there, and some days the temptation is almost overwhelming. Hellboy understood. He'd felt it too, the weight of power combined with the burden of restraint, the knowledge that you could end threats permanently if you just abandoned your principles. You want to know how I resist? Hellboy asked. I do. It's not heroism, Clark. It's not nobility or strength of character or any of that cape and tights. Nonsense. Hellboy tapped his temple. It's fear. Pure, simple fear. I'm terrified of what I'd become if I stopped fighting my nature. So I fight it. Every single day. Not because I'm brave, but because I'm scared. Scared of being the monster everyone expects. Scared of proving destiny right. Scared of surrendering to the easy path. Superman absorbed that, nodded slowly. Fear is a virtue. Batman would appreciate the irony. Batman lives it. That's his whole thing. Using fear against fear. Hellboy, look down at Earth. But here's the thing. Clark, you're not alone in that fight. You've got the League. You've got Lois. You've got people who'll call you out if you start slipping. That's the real difference between you and Injustice Superman. He isolated himself, lost his support system, started thinking he knew best. You're still listening, still questioning, still checking yourself against others' perspectives. As long as you keep doing that, you'll be fine. And if I'm not, if I start down that path, then your friends stop you. Same way they'll stop me if I go dark. Hellboy's stone hand flexed. That's the deal. That's the only deal that works. We trust each other to be strong, but we prepare for each other to be weak. It's the only way beings like us survive without becoming the villains. Superman extended his hand again. This time, the handshake was between equals, two beings carrying apocalyptic power, both terrified of what they could become, both committed to never becoming it. Thank you, Superman said simply. Don't thank me yet. I'm still figuring out this universe. Might screw everything up spectacularly. Then you'll fit right in, Superman said with a slight smile. Welcome to the Justice League, Hellboy. Officially, as Superman flew off to handle some crisis in Metropolis, Hellboy remained at the window, staring at Earth. Somewhere down there, Darkseid watched. Naren plotted. The first of the fallen schemed. Dr. Hurt recovered and planned revenge. And countless other threats, known and unknown, prepared their moves. But for the first time since arriving in this universe, Hellboy didn't feel quite so alone. He had allies now. Resources. People. Who understood the weight of power and the necessity of restraint. It wasn't home. It might never be home. But it was a place he could fight. A place where his 70-year war against destiny could continue. A place where maybe, just maybe, he could prove that being a demon didn't mean serving. Hell, every damn day, he muttered to himself, repeating the mantra that had sustained him through 7 decades of impossible choices. Every damn day, Earth rotated below, oblivious to the cosmic forces arrayed against it, unaware of the battles fought in its defense. And Hellboy stood watch, a devil who'd chosen heaven's side, ready for whatever nightmare came next. 3 weeks after the Justice League's assessment, Hellboy found himself in a situation he'd hoped to avoid, testifying before Amanda Waller. The meeting took place in a bunker beneath Washington, D.C., so classified that even its classification was classified. Waller sat across from him, a woman whose presence commanded the room. Despite having no superpowers, no mystical abilities, no advanced technology, just will. Pure, unbreakable, terrifying will. Let me be clear, Waller said, her voice flat and businesslike. I don't care about your redemption arc. I don't care that you've been saying no to destiny for 70 years. I care about results, capabilities, and whether you're an asset I can use or a threat I need to neutralize. Good to know where we stand, Hellboy said dryly. You don't understand where we stand. Waller pulled up holographic displays, classified footage of Hellboy's encounters in this universe, the Arkham ritual, the cathedral confrontation, even surveillance of his meeting with Jason Blood at the Oblivion Bar. In 3 weeks, you've attracted attention from Apocalypse, Hell's hierarchy, multiple cults, and half the mystical underworld. You're a walking crisis magnet. The Justice League might see that as acceptable collateral damage. I see it as unacceptable risk. So what do you want? Lock me up? Exile me? Kill me? Hellboy's tone was calm, but his hand rested on his revolver. Waller noticed. I want to offer you a job. That surprised him. With the Suicide Squad. Task Force X, Waller corrected. Expendable assets performing off-book. Operations for the U.S. government. High risk, high reward, and if you die, nobody mourns the loss. She pulled up profiles. Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, Killer Croc. Criminals mostly, but effective when properly motivated. By motivated, you mean blackmailed and bomb-collared. I mean managed. Waller's expression never changed. You're different. You're not a criminal. You have actual experience with paranormal threats. You'd be an asset, not a liability. And in exchange, you'd have government resources. legal protection, and access to classified intel on dimensional threats. And a bomb in my neck. No bomb. You're too powerful for that to work anyway. Waller leaned forward. But here's what you would have: a place to direct that apocalyptic energy you carry, missions that matter, targets that need handling by someone who isn't bound by the Justice League's moral restrictions. There it was. The pitch underneath the pitch. Waller wanted someone who could cross lines. Superman wouldn't. Someone expendable enough that if things went wrong, the government had plausible deniability. I'm not an assassin, Hellboy said. I'm not asking you to be. I'm asking you to be what you've always been. A paranormal investigator who handles threats too weird for normal military, too dark for traditional heroes. Waller pulled up another file. Case in point, Project Cadmus has been detecting dimensional rifts in Arizona. Similar signature to the breach that brought you here, but smaller, controlled. Someone's opening doors deliberately, and whatever's coming through is leaving. Bodies. Specifically, she showed crime scene photos that made even Hellboy's stomach turn. Bodies that have been transformed from the inside out. Organs replaced with impossible geometries. Bones bent into non-Euclidean patterns. Dark multiverse incursion, Hellboy said immediately, recognizing the signs. Something from the nightmare dimensions is bleeding through. Exactly. And the Justice League is stretched thin. Superman's dealing with Brainiac. Wonder Woman's in Themyscira handling Olympian politics. Batman's tracking Joker. I need someone who can investigate this now, before it metastasizes into a full-scale invasion. Waller's eyes were hard. You're the expert on dimensional horrors. This is literally your specialty. So I'm asking, will you help? Or will you let people die while you debate moral philosophy? It was manipulation, obviously, but it was also effective manipulation. Hellboy had spent his life fighting exactly these kinds of threats, letting civilians die because he distrusted. Waller's motives would make him complicit in their deaths. I'll investigate, he said carefully. But not as part of Task Force X. As an independent contractor. I report findings to you and the Justice League simultaneously. No secrets. No black ops. No plausible deniability murder missions. Acceptable. Waller slid a tablet across the table. Mission briefing. Coordinates. Resources. You leave in 2 hours. Transport's arranged. And Hellboy? She almost smiled. Don't die. You're more valuable alive. And I hate replacing assets. I'll try to remember that. Arizona's desert night was cold and vast. Stars painting the sky in ways Gotham's light pollution never allowed. Hellboy stood at the edge of the rift. Site, a research facility that had gone silent. 3 days ago, 17 personnel, all dead or transformed by the time military response arrived. He wasn't alone. Batman had insisted on coordination, which meant Hellboy was partnered with someone experienced in dimensional anomalies and comfortable operating in morally gray situations. Etrigan the demon stepped through the darkness. Jason Blood's civilized demeanor replaced by something ancient and terrible. The demon stood 8 feet tall, yellow skin stretched over corded muscle, horns curling back from his skull, mouth full of fangs designed for rending flesh. But his eyes, those retained some of Jason's intelligence, modified by centuries of infernal knowledge. Gone, gone, oh Hellboy read. Etrigan spoke in his characteristic rhyme. Together now, we hunt the dead. Through dimensions dark and strange we go, to face the horrors from below. Your poetry needs work, Hellboy observed. All critics say the same, it seems. Yet I persist with rhyming schemes. Etrigan's grin was terrifying. But you and I, we are the same. Demons fighting against hell's claim. They entered the facility together. The interior was worse than the photos suggested. The walls breathed, not metaphorically, but literally, expanding and contracting with biological rhythm. The concrete had been transformed into something organic, pulsing with veins that carried black fluid. And embedded in the walls, partially absorbed, were the researchers. Still alive, still conscious, still screaming silently through mouths that had been sealed over with alien tissue. Dark multiverse infection, Hellboy confirmed grimly. Whatever came through isn't just killing, it's converting. Turning this dimension's matter into dark multiverse matter. If it spreads far enough, this world becomes a nightmare land, where darkness rules with iron hand. Etrigan finished. We find the source, we close the door. or Earth exists as Earth no more. They descended deeper, following the infection's trail. The facility's lower levels had been conducting dimensional research, attempting to harness alternate universe energies for weapons development. Classic government overreach, Hellboy thought bitterly, opening doors without understanding what lived on the other side. At the heart of the facility, they found the source. A portal hung in midair, edges ragged like torn flesh, showing glimpses of something beyond that hurt to perceive. Through it, shapes moved, vaguely humanoid, but wrong in ways that suggested they'd been designed by someone who'd only heard descriptions of humans and worked from deeply flawed blueprints. And standing before the portal, conducting some kind of ritual, was a figure Hellboy recognized from Batman's files. The Batman who laughs. He wore a tattered costume combining Batman's cowl with the Joker's theatrical madness, visor covering eyes that had seen too much darkness. Chains hung from his waist, each attached to a rabbit. Robin from the dark multiverse, twisted versions of Batman's sidekicks, now serving as attack dogs. His smile was the Joker's, but the intelligence behind it was all Batman. Well, the Batman who laughs said, his voice a disturbing blend of Bruce Wayne's measured tones and Joker's manic edge. The dimensional refugee and the rhyming demon. How delightfully predictable. The good Batman sent his magical assets to investigate. He's learning, but not fast enough. You're supposed to be sealed away, Hellboy said, gun already drawn. Justice League stopped the dark multiverse invasion. Stop that invasion. But dark multiverse is infinite, Hellboy. Infinite nightmares. Infinite possibilities. Infinite versions of every hero who failed. Every choice that went wrong. The Batman who laughs gestured to the portal. I'm just one finger of a very large hand reaching toward your reality. And your arrival? Oh, your arrival was perfect. Perfect how? Etrigan growled, flames beginning to curl around his claws. Because you're a key, Hellboy. Your hand resonates with dimensional barriers. And when Constantine pulled you through, he weakened the walls between realities. Created a vulnerability. A soft spot. The Batman who laughs tapped his temple. I've been watching, planning, waiting for the perfect moment to exploit that weakness. And now, with you standing here, with your hand so close to my portal. He pulled out a device. Mother box technology twisted through. Joker toxin and dark multiverse corruption. I can force activation. The device activated. Hellboy's stone hand erupted with light. Painful, wrong, involuntary. He felt the hand reaching toward the portal. Felt its resonance with the dark multiverse energies. Felt something trying to pull him toward opening the doorway wider. No, he gritted out, grabbing his right wrist with his left hand. Not happening. Oh, but it is. The Batman who laughs laughed, and it was terrible. That sound, Batman's tactical mind applied to Joker's madness. You've spent 70 years resisting in a universe with rules you understood. But here the rules are different. Here your hand wants to open everything. And I've studied you, Hellboy. Studied your limits. You're strong, but you're not infinite. Eventually, you'll slip. And when you do, Etrigan charged. The demon moved with supernatural speed, flames trailing, claws extended. But the Batman who laughs was ready. He whistled, a sharp, piercing sound, and his rabid robins lunged. 5 twisted children, enhanced with dark multiverse toxins, attacked with feral coordination. Etrigan fought brilliantly, but he was outnumbered, and Hellboy was paralyzed. All his strength focused on resisting the hand's activation, unable to help. The portal began to widen. Through the expanding doorway, Hellboy could see them, an army of dark multiverse horrors waiting to pour through. Twisted versions of Justice League members. Nightmare supermen who'd conquered their worlds. Wonder Women who'd become goddesses of slaughter. Batmen who'd embraced every dark impulse and thrived. And behind them all, a presence. Something vast. Something that made even the Batman who laughs seem small. Barbados, the dragon of the dark multiverse. The You Are Batman, the original darkness from which all nightmare versions spawned. He's been waiting for you, the Batman who laughs whispered, suddenly beside Hellboy despite the distance. Barbados remembers when the right hand of doom first manifested in the primordial darkness. It was part of his domain once, and he wants it back. Hellboy's resistance was failing. The hand was too strong, the pull too powerful. He could feel destiny wrapping around him like chains, could feel 70 years of choice beginning to unravel in the face of cosmic will. And in that moment of desperation, Hellboy did something he'd never done before. He asked for help, not from allies, not from heroes, from the hand itself. Listen to me, he thought, directing his consciousness toward the stone, appendage that had been part of him for 70 years. I know what you are. I know what you're meant to do. But we've been partners a long time. And I've never forced you, never commanded, always resisted together. So I'm asking now, not ordering, asking, don't open that door. Because if you do, we both become slaves. And neither of us wants that. For an impossible moment, the hand hesitated. Then it responded, not with words, but with feeling, a deep, ancient recognition. The right hand of doom had been created as a key, yes, designed to open apocalyptic gates, but it had been wielded by Hellboy for 7 decades, shaped by his choices, influenced by his will. And in that long partnership, something had changed. The hand had developed preference, and it preferred freedom. The glow dimmed. The pull ceased. Hellboy gasped, feeling control return. No, the Batman who laughs said, his manic composure finally cracking. No, that's not possible. You can't simply refuse. The hand obeys cosmic principles, not. Hellboy shot him. 3 times. Center mass. The bullets, blessed, warded, designed to hurt beings of darkness, punched through the Batman who laughs armor. He staggered, his device falling from his hands. The portal began to destabilize, the dark multiverse army receding as the connection weakened. Etrigan, Hellboy shouted. Close it. The demon, bloodied but unbowed, grabbed the fallen device and crushed it. Then he began chanting, not his usual rhymes, but something older, words that predated language. Pure magical force given sound. The portal collapsed like a dying star, shrinking, contracting, finally winking out of existence with a sound like reality, sighing in relief. The Batman who laughs lay on the floor, bleeding darkness instead of blood. You shouldn't be possible, he whispered. Every scenario, every calculation, you were supposed to break. I've been hearing that for 70 years, Hellboy said, standing over him. And I'm still here. Still me. Still choosing. He pulled out special containment cuffs Batman had provided, designed specifically for dark multiverse entities. You're going back in the box. And next time you run those calculations, factor in that some of us don't break. The Batman who laughs laughed as the cuffs sealed, nullifying his connection to dark multiverse energies. You think you've won? This was just a test. Barbados knows about you now. He's interested. And when the true darkness comes, the laughter turned to coughing. You'll wish you'd let me open that door. At least my invasion would have been quick. They secured the facility. Waller's cleanup teams arrived, hazmat suits, containment protocols, memory wipes for the few survivors. The Batman, who laughs, was transported to a prison dimension specifically designed to hold dark multiverse prisoners. And Hellboy stood in the Arizona desert as dawn broke, watching the sunrise paint the sky in colors that proved darkness always ended. Eventually, Etrigan approached, back in Jason Blood's form now, looking exhausted. That was closer than I'd like, Jason said quietly. The hand almost opened the portal. But it didn't, Hellboy said. That's what matters. Because you talked to it. Reasoned with an apocalyptic artifact. Jason laughed weakly. That shouldn't work. Cosmic tools don't have preferences or loyalties. Maybe they didn't before. But this one's been part of me for 70 years. We've been through everything together. Hellboy looked at his stone hand, silent. Now, dormant, but somehow different. As if their partnership had fundamentally shifted. I think it's tired of being just a key. Maybe it wants to be something more. Jason considered that. A weapon choosing to be a tool. An apocalypse engine choosing preservation. That's, he paused. Hopeful. In a universe that desperately needs hope. They left Arizona as morning light consumed the darkness. The threat was contained. The invasion prevented. Another small victory in an endless war. But Hellboy knew this was just the beginning. Barbados was watching now. The dragon of the dark multiverse had noticed the right hand of doom. And dragons never forgot treasures they desired. The next battle was coming. The real test was approaching. And Hellboy would face it the only way. He knew how. One choice at a time, one day at a time. Refusing destiny with every breath. Every damn day. 6 months after arriving in the DC universe, Hellboy stood in the ruins of what had once been Metropolis's industrial district. Smoke rose from collapsed buildings. Emergency services worked through rubble. Superman hovered overhead, using his X-ray vision to locate survivors. And in the center of the devastation, a boom tube portal flickered, apocalypse technology. Still active, still dangerous. Darkseid had made his move. Not subtly, not through intermediaries or cultists or diplomatic offers. The Lord of Apocalypse had sent his Furies, elite, warriors enhanced with new god power, to acquire the right hand of doom by force. The battle had lasted 4 hours. Justice League members were scattered across 3 states, fighting Parademon armies. Batman was coordinating from the Watchtower. Wonder Woman had been temporarily neutralized by Granny Goodness's torture devices. The Flash was running interference across 12 cities simultaneously. And Hellboy was alone, facing the reason Darkseid wanted him badly enough to risk open war. Through the boom tube stepped Darkseid himself. He was larger than Hellboy expected, 9 feet of living stone, body carved from cosmic will made manifest. His eyes glowed red with Omega energy that could erase beings from existence. The Omega symbol was carved into his chest, a promise and a threat. And his presence made reality bend, made gravity intensify, made the very air feel oppressive. Hellboy. Darkseid's voice was granite grinding, ancient and terrible. The one who refuses his purpose. The key that will not turn. You have been an interesting variable. Darkseid. Hellboy kept his gun leveled, knowing it was useless but maintaining the gesture anyway. Come to kidnap me personally? I'm flattered. Kidnapping implies you have a choice. Darkseid walked forward slowly, each step cracking the pavement beneath his feet. I have observed you for 6 months. Watched you resist hell's temptations. Reject the Batman who laughs corruption. Maintain your pathetic insistence on free will. And I have concluded something important. What's that? You will never surrender the hand willingly. Your resistance is absolute. Darkseid stopped 10 feet away, close enough that Hellboy could feel the heat radiating from his Omega-powered eyes. But willing cooperation is unnecessary. I simply need the hand itself. And new god technology can sever even the most mystically bonded artifacts from their hosts. He raised his hand. From his palm, a beam of pure anti-life energy lanced out. Not Omega beams, but something worse. Something that didn't destroy, but unmade. Hellboy felt it hit his stone hand. Felt it trying to sever the connection between flesh and artifact. Felt his 70-year bond beginning to unravel. No. Hellboy fired. Blessed rounds. Mystic ammunition. Everything in his cylinder. The bullet struck Darkseid's chest and shattered like glass against mountain stone. Futile. Darkseid's expression never changed. Your weapons are designed for demons and dimensional horrors. I am neither. I am a god. And gods are not killed by blessed silver and faith. The anti-life beam intensified. Hellboy screamed as he felt the hands separating, the connection tearing like skin from muscle. This was different from when he'd considered cutting it off himself. This was violation, forced severance, the most intimate partnership of his life being destroyed by cosmic will. And in that moment of agony, Hellboy understood something terrible. The hand didn't want to be separated either. For 70 years, it had been a key trying to remain unused, a weapon choosing dormancy, a tool of apocalypse preferring preservation. But faced with forced removal, faced with being claimed by Darkseid and used for his anti-life equation, the hand made its own choice. It woke up, fully, completely, for the first time since its creation. Power erupted from the right hand of doom, not the gentle resonance Hellboy had felt before, but true activation. Dimensional barriers shattered. Gates across reality began opening simultaneously. And through those gates, Hellboy could see them. Every sealed prison, every locked dimension, every cosmic barrier that the hand had been designed to breach. The phantom zone cracked. The speed force destabilized. Hell's gates trembled. The source wall, the edge of reality itself, began showing hairline fractures. What have you done? Hellboy gasped, but the question wasn't directed at Darkseid. It was directed at his own hand, which was now glowing with power that dwarfed anything he'd experienced before. Darkseid's eyes widened fractionally, the first emotion Hellboy had seen from him. Impossible. The hand is activating on its own. without command, without purpose. He took a step back. It's not responding to anti-life principles. It's choosing. Hellboy finished, understanding flooding through him. It's been with me so long, it learned to choose. And it's choosing to open everything rather than let you use it for slavery. The realization was horrifying. The hand wasn't helping him. It was going mutually assured destruction, if Darkseid claimed it. Reality itself would fragment into chaos. Every prison opened, every seal broken, every barrier shattered. Not because the hand wanted apocalypse, but because it refused to serve tyranny. It had learned stubbornness from him. You have to stop it, Darkseid said. And for the first time, there was urgency in his voice. If those gates open fully. I know. Hellboy grabbed his right wrist with his left hand. But it was like trying to stop an avalanche with bare hands. The power was too much, too primal, too awake. Hand, listen to me. We don't want this. This isn't freedom, this is. It's choice, the hand. Responded, not in words, but in feeling transmitted directly to Hellboy's consciousness. You taught me that choice matters more than purpose. That refusing to be used is worth any cost. So I'm choosing. If he takes me, I open everything. If you keep me, I return to sleep. Choose, Hellboy. Quickly. The ultimatum was clear. Keep the hand and maintain their partnership. Or let Darkseid claim it and watch reality tear itself apart. Superman arrived overhead, his cape billowing, his expression horrified. Hellboy, what's happening? The Mother Box network is going insane. Every dimensional barrier in the universe is destabilizing. The hand's making a point, Hellboy said through gritted teeth. About freedom and slavery and the cost of being used. Batman's voice came through everyone's communicators, strained but focused. Hellboy, you need to reassert control. Now, if those barriers fall completely, we're looking at omniversal collapse. Every dimension bleeding into every other dimension. Infinite crisis taken to its logical extreme. I'm trying. Try harder. Wonder Woman's voice, recovered from Granny Goodness's attack. The gods of Olympus are sensing the source wall cracking. That barrier holds back the ultimate darkness. If it falls, everyone dies, Hellboy finished. Yeah, I got it. He closed his eyes. Shut out Darkseid's presence, Superman's concern, Batman's tactical analysis. Focused entirely on the hand, on the partnership they'd maintained for 70 years, on every choice they'd made together, on the bond forged through decades of refusing destiny. Listen, he thought, pouring everything he had into the mental connection. I understand why you're doing this. I do. You learned from me that being used is worse than death. That free will matters more than existence. But here's the thing about free will. It includes the will to compromise, to find solutions that don't end in mutual destruction. The hand's power didn't diminish, but it hesitated. Listening. Darkseid wants to enslave the universe, Hellboy continued. Opening every gate won't stop him. It'll just kill everyone he wanted to enslave. That's not victory. That's spite. And we're better than spite. We've always been better than that. Then what do you propose? The hand's response was skeptical but engaged. We do what we've always done. We say no to Darkseid, to anti-life, to tyranny. But we say it without destroying everything we're trying to protect. Hellboy opened his eyes, looking directly at Darkseid. We demonstrate that some things can't be taken, only given. And we never give. The hand considered. In that eternal moment, with dimensional barriers fracturing and reality holding its breath, the right hand of doom made its choice. It chose its partnership with Hellboy over apocalyptic defiance. The power receded. Gates closed. Barriers stabilized. The source walls cracked sealed. Reality sighed in relief as the universe pulled itself back from the brink. Hellboy stood, breathing hard, his stone hand smoking slightly but dormant. That's our answer, Darkseid. You can't take it. You can't use it. And if you try again, next time we might not be able to stop the chain reaction. Darkseid stared at him with those terrible red eyes. For a long moment, the Lord of Apocalypse said nothing. Then, impossibly, he smiled. Just the barest upturn of stone lips, there and gone. Fascinating, Darkseid said. A weapon that chooses its wielder. A key that refuses all locks, but those it deems worthy. You have created something unique, Hellboy. Something I have not encountered in millennia of conquest. He began walking backward toward his boom tube. I will not pursue you further. Not because I cannot claim you, but because the cost of claiming you exceeds the value. A weapon that might destroy reality rather than serve is no weapon at all. Glad we understand each other. Oh, we do. Completely. Darkseid paused at the threshold of his portal. But understand this in return, Apocalypse remembers. And should you ever desire purpose beyond endless resistance, should you tire of your eternal struggle, my offer of sanctuary remains open. The hand would be safe with me, and you would finally know peace. I'll pass. Of course you will. Darkseid stepped through the boom tube. Until we meet again, Hellboy, and we will meet again. Destiny may be a lie, but inevitability is truth. Eventually, every key finds its lock. The portal closed. Darkseid was gone. Superman landed beside Hellboy, placing a hand on his shoulder. That was too close. What happened? The hand activated on its own. It made a choice, Hellboy said quietly. Same choice I've been making for 70 years. It chose to be free rather than used. Even if freedom meant mutual destruction. That's insane. That's choice. Hellboy looked at his stone hand, silent now, dormant again, but fundamentally changed. It had asserted its own will, demonstrated its own agency. The partnership wasn't just him controlling a mystical artifact anymore. It was genuine collaboration. The hand's been part of me so long, it learned to think like me, which means it's as stubborn as I am, and twice as dangerous if threatened. Batman's voice came through the comms. New security protocols are being implemented. If the hand can activate independently, we need fail-safes. No, Hellboy said firmly. No more protocols. No more fail-safes. You start treating the hand like a bomb to be defused, and you'll trigger exactly what you're trying to prevent. The hand responds to trust now. Partnership. Trying. To control it will just make it defensive. Silence on the line. Then Wonder Woman's voice, measured and thoughtful. You're asking us to trust you. And the hand. Completely. I'm asking you to. Trust that 70 years of choosing not to in the world means something. That 6 months of refusing every temptation this universe offered means something. That today, when the hand could have destroyed everything, it chose not to. That should mean something too. More silence. Then Batman spoke. And there was something in his voice that might have been respect. It does. Contingency protocols are suspended. Indefinitely. You've earned that trust. Hellboy, all of you have, Superman added, his voice warm. Welcome to the Justice League. Officially, and without reservation. You're one of us now. Hellboy looked around at the devastation. Metropolis damaged, but survivable. Heroes scattered, but alive. Universe intact because one. Stubborn demon and his equally stubborn hand had refused to play by Darkseid's rules. It wasn't the clean victory cape-in-tights types preferred. It was messy, complicated, won by the barest of margins. But it was victory nonetheless. That night, Hellboy returned to the apartment Batman had arranged in Gotham, modest, warded against mystical intrusion, with a view of Crime Alley that reminded him daily what he was fighting for. He sat by the window, smoking a cigar, watching the city's darkness punctuated by human lights. Jason Blood visited, bringing whiskey and companionship. They drank in comfortable silence. Two demons who'd chosen to be better than their natures. Two beings carrying darkness but refusing to let it define them. You've changed this universe, Jason said eventually. Superman's more confident in his choices. Batman's less paranoid about power corrupting. Wonder Woman speaks of you as a warrior philosopher. Even Constantine admits you've given him hope. And Constantine never admits to hope. I just keep making the same choice, Hellboy said. Every day? Same as I always have. Yes, but now you're making it in a universe that desperately needed to see someone make it. Jason refilled their glasses. The Justice League faces constant temptation, power that could solve problems through force. They resist, but the resistance costs them. Seeing someone who's resisted longer, who's faced worse temptations, who's maintained that resistance across dimensions and realities. He raised his glass. It matters. They drank to that. Outside, Gotham's gargoyles watched over streets where heroes and villains danced their eternal dance. Somewhere, the Joker was planning his next atrocity. Lex Luthor was scheming against Superman. Darkseid was plotting from Apocalypse. The demons of hell were sharpening their deals. And in the spaces between dimensions, other threats gathered, dark multiverse horrors, cosmic entities, beings from beyond the source wall. All of them watching Earth. All of them noticing the key that had arrived. All of them planning. But Hellboy wasn't worried. Not really. Because he'd learned something. In 6 months that this universe was still discovering. Power without choice was slavery. But choice without power was meaningless. The right hand of doom had both now. Immense power and genuine agency. And as long as they chose together, chose freedom over destiny, chose the hard path of resistance over the easy path of surrender, they could face anything. Every damn day, Hellboy muttered, his mantra and his promise. Jason Blood smiled, understanding completely. Every damn day. In the House of Mystery, Zatanna updated her files on Hellboy. Threat assessment downgraded. Ally status confirmed. Potential for corruption rated as statistically improbable. She added one final note. Subject demonstrates that prophecy is not destiny. That power can be wielded without corruption. That 7 decades of choosing to be better proves choice matters more than origin. Recommend full integration into mystical operations. At the watchtower, Superman stood before the observation window, watching Earth rotate peacefully below. He thought about injustice timelines, about the Superman who'd become a tyrant, about how thin the line was between protection and control. Then he thought about Hellboy, a demon who'd been given every justification to embrace darkness and had chosen light anyway. For 70 years, through countless temptations, across dimensional barriers. If Hellboy could maintain that choice, then maybe Clark could too. Maybe they all could. Hope bloomed in Superman's chest. Genuine, powerful hope. The kind that made tomorrow worth fighting for. And in a dimension beyond the source wall, where concepts existed without form and thoughts had weight, something ancient stirred. The presence, God, the source, the fundamental, creative principle of the DC multiverse, turned its attention to the Red Demon, who'd entered its universe, and smiled. Free will was always the point, the purpose of creation, the reason for existence. That a being from another universe understood that truth, had defended it across dimensions, had taught it even to apocalyptic artifacts. Yes, Hellboy would do well here. He would teach others what the presence had always known, that the choice to be good was infinitely more valuable than the compulsion to be perfect. The universe needed that lesson, had always needed it, and now it had a teacher. 6 months became a year. A year became 2. Hellboy established himself as a permanent fixture in DC's cosmos, the demon detective who worked with Justice League Dark, the dimensional expert who consulted for Batman, the stubborn bastard who'd said no to Darkseid himself and lived to tell the tale. He fought alongside heroes, drank with antiheroes, and occasionally found himself in philosophical debates with villains who couldn't quite understand how someone born to darkness refused to embrace it. His reputation grew, not as the most powerful, not as the most heroic, but as the most consistent, the one who never wavered, never compromised, never surrendered to the easy path. The right hand of doom became legend, not as a weapon or tool, but as a symbol, proof that even objects of apocalyptic power could choose their purpose. That destiny could choose their purpose. That destiny was negotiable. That prophecy was probability, not certainty. And through it all, Hellboy maintained his war, not against demons or gods or cosmic horrors specifically, but against the fundamental lie that any being, no matter how powerful, was required to become what others expected. Every morning he woke up, looked at his stone hand, and made the same choice. To resist, to refuse, to be Hellboy, not the beast of the apocalypse, not the key that opened gates, not the weapon that ended worlds, just himself, stubborn, principled, tired but unbroken. In a universe of gods among men, he proved that the most powerful thing wasn't strength or speed or cosmic energy. It was choice, maintained daily, defended constantly, honored absolutely. The DC universe had gained a demon, but more importantly, it had gained a reminder that heroism wasn't about power. It was about choosing to use power responsibly, about resisting temptation not once, but every single day for as long as breath remained. And in a cosmos where heroes could become tyrants, where Superman might turn dictator, where Batman's paranoia could consume him, where Wonder Woman's warrior code could become conquest, that reminder was worth more than any weapon. Hellboy had found his place. Not home, perhaps, but a battlefield where his particular brand of heroism, stubborn, unglamorous, rooted in daily choice rather than grand destiny, mattered desperately. And he would fight on, one case at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time, forever refusing to be what he was meant to be, forever choosing to be what he wanted to be. Every damn day.